Maria Sullivan was a vibrant 38-year-old woman known for her artistic talents and kind-hearted nature. She lived in Summerville, South Carolina, a small town known for its charming downtown and the annual Flower Town Festival. Maria worked as a freelance artist, creating beautiful paintings and sculptures that she sold at local art fairs and galleries. Maria lived with her husband, David Sullivan, and her 18-year-old stepson, Tyler. David was a retired naval officer, and they had been married for 10 years. Despite their 20-year age difference, Maria and David were deeply in love. They met at a local art show where Maria's work was being displayed. David was immediately drawn to her creativity and passion for life. Maria tried her best to create a happy and harmonious home. She balanced her freelance work with managing the household and caring for Tyler. She was a motherly figure to Tyler, who had lost his biological mother a few years earlier. Maria and Tyler's relationship was said to be strained, but she remained hopeful that they could eventually bond. In her free time, Maria enjoyed reading and gardening. She was a big fan of classic literature, often quoting Jane Austen and the Bronte sisters. Her garden was filled with vibrant flowers, a testament to her love for nature. Maria was also active in the local community, volunteering at the Somerville Public Library and participating in neighborhood events. In the days leading up to her death, Maria was excited about a new art project. She was working on a series of sculptures inspired by the local wildlife and landscapes of South Carolina. Maria planned to showcase these pieces at the upcoming Flower Town Festival. She was also looking forward to a small family getaway she had planned, hoping it would help mend the strained relationship between her and Tyler. Maria's friends described her as charismatic and friendly. She had a close-knit social circle and was always willing to lend a helping hand. Her friends recalled how Maria would often host dinner parties, cooking delicious meals, and creating a warm, welcoming atmosphere. Despite the challenges in her life, Maria remained optimistic and full of dreams. She hoped to open her own art gallery someday and inspire others with her work. Tragically, her dreams were cut short by a brutal and senseless act of violence. Maria's life was a testament to her resilience and creativity, and her loss was deeply felt by all who knew her. On the morning of September 12, 2012, Somerville was just waking up. It was a cool, clear day, with the sun shining brightly. Around 8:30 a.m., Maria Sullivan's neighbor, Lilybeth Carter, walked over to the Sullivan house. Lilybeth, who was 25 years old, lived next door. She often visited Maria to discuss her true crime novel, which she was working on based on real-life events. Lilybeth knocked on the door, but no one answered. She found this odd because Maria was usually up early, working in her art studio. The studio was a small, separate building in the backyard. Lilybeth decided to check there. As she approached the studio, she noticed the door was slightly open. When Lilybeth entered, she was greeted by a horrific scene. Maria was lying on the floor, covered in blood. The room was in chaos, with broken sculptures and shattered glass everywhere. Maria's body showed signs of a violent struggle. Lilybeth was shocked and horrified. Her hands trembled as she quickly dialed 911 on her cell phone. The 911 operator, calming Lilybeth as best they could, instructed her to stay outside and wait for the police. Lilybeth, still in shock, followed the instructions. She stood in the yard, staring at the studio, trying to process what she had just seen. The police arrived within minutes. As they began their investigation, they noted the heavy sculpture near Maria's body. It was clear this was the murder weapon, used to inflict multiple blunt force trauma injuries. The amount of blood and the state of the studio indicated a frenzied attack. Lilybeth was interviewed by the police. She was still shaken but managed to provide a clear account of her morning. She described her relationship with Maria and her reasons for visiting. Her detailed observations helped the investigators piece together the timeline of events leading up to the discovery of Maria's body. The discovery of Maria Sullivan's body marked the beginning of a complex and emotional investigation. Her friends and neighbors were left in shock, struggling to understand how such a brutal crime could happen in their peaceful community. When the police arrived at the Sullivan house on the morning of September 12, 2012, they knew they had a serious crime on their hands. It was a sunny day in Somerville, and the peaceful neighborhood was quickly disturbed by the flashing lights and sirens of police cars. Detective Martin Coco, a seasoned investigator known for his thoroughness, led the team. With him was Officer Julia Montes, who was respected for her calm and methodical approach. They had both seen many crime scenes, but the brutality of this one stood out. The art studio where Maria's body was found was a small building in the backyard. As they entered, the detectives were met with a gruesome sight. Blood was splattered on the walls, and the floor was covered with broken sculptures and shattered glass. The room looked like a scene from a horror movie, a far cry from the creative space it usually was. Maria's body lay on the floor, showing signs of a violent struggle. It was clear that she had been beaten to death with a heavy sculpture found nearby. The sculpture was stained with blood, indicating it was the murder weapon. Maria had multiple blunt force trauma injuries, suggesting a frenzied and brutal attack. The police immediately began their investigation. They cordoned off the area to preserve evidence. Detective Coco and Officer Montes carefully examined the crime scene, looking for any clues. They used advanced forensic techniques, including fingerprint dusting and blood pattern analysis, to piece together what had happened. The detectives worked quickly but meticulously. They collected samples of blood and hair for DNA analysis and took photographs of the scene from every angle. They also found a few items that seemed out of place, like a torn piece of cloth and a broken piece of jewelry, which they bagged as evidence. Outside, neighbors gathered, watching with a mix of fear and curiosity. The police asked anyone who had seen or heard anything unusual to come forward. They also conducted door-to-door interviews to gather more information about the hours leading up to the discovery of Maria's body. As the day went on, the police presence grew. Additional officers arrived to help with the investigation, and the media started to gather, drawn by the shocking nature of the crime. News reporters from local stations like WCIV and the Post and Courier began reporting live from the scene, adding to the growing sense of urgency. By the end of the day, the police had gathered a substantial amount of evidence, but many questions remained. Who could have done this, and why? Detective Coco and Officer Montes knew they had a long road ahead, but they were determined to find justice for Maria. David Sullivan, Maria's husband, was the first suspect the police investigated. David, who was 58 years old, had a disciplined and stoic personality, shaped by his years of service in the Navy. He married Maria 10 years ago, providing her with stability and support. Despite his stern exterior, David was deeply in love with Maria and very protective of his family. On September 12, 2012, after the police discovered Maria's body, they brought David in for questioning. Detective Martin Coco and Officer Julia Montes conducted the interview. David appeared calm, but was clearly shaken by the news of his wife's death. He told the detectives that he had been away on a business trip, staying at a Hampton Inn in Boston. He provided hotel receipts and a confirmation of his check-in and check-out times to back up his alibi. David's interview lasted several hours. The detectives asked him about his relationship with Maria and any possible enemies she might have had. David spoke about the tensions between Maria and his son Tyler. He mentioned that Tyler had been acting out since the death of his biological mother and struggled to accept Maria as a mother figure. David believed that despite these challenges, the family would eventually reconcile. The police also searched the Sullivan home for additional evidence. They went through David's belongings and searched his car, but found nothing suspicious. They interviewed David's colleagues and checked his phone records, all of which confirmed his alibi. Throughout the investigation, David maintained his composure. However, the strain was visible. He expressed his grief and disbelief that someone could harm Maria. He was cooperative with the police and provided them with any information they requested. Meanwhile, the local news outlets, such as WCIV and the Post and Courier, reported on the investigation. Neighbors and friends of the Sullivans were shocked to hear that David was a suspect. Many described him as a kind and loving husband who would never harm his wife. Despite his strong alibi, the police continued to investigate David to ensure nothing was overlooked. They re-examined the crime scene and cross-checked all the details of his alibi. Detective Coco and Officer Montes wanted to be thorough, leaving no stone unturned. As days passed, it became clear that David was not involved in Maria's murder. The focus of the investigation shifted to other potential suspects. While David was cleared, the pain of losing Maria and being under suspicion was a heavy burden he had to bear. On September 15, 2012, just 3 days after the discovery of Maria's body, Somerville was covered in a light drizzle. The gray skies matched the somber mood in the town. Around noon, while reviewing the evidence collected from the crime scene, Detective Martin Coco noticed something unusual. Hidden among Maria's art supplies in her studio were dozens of letters. These were not just any letters, but sexually explicit love letters exchanged between Maria and someone else. Detective Coco and Officer Julia Montes carefully read through the letters. The content revealed a secret affair between Maria and an unidentified individual. The letters spoke graphically of secret sex acts and deep, conflicting emotions. This discovery was a significant breakthrough in the case and suggested a possible motive for the murder. Detective Coco called for a meeting with the entire investigative team. They discussed the contents of the letters and the implications, but he knew they had to identify the other person involved in the affair to understand the full context and potential motives. Officer Montes led the effort to gather more information. She visited Maria's close friends and neighbors, asking if anyone knew about the affair. Many were shocked and had no idea Maria was involved with someone other than her husband, David. The news quickly spread through the small, very conservative Southern community, creating a buzz of gossip and speculation. Meanwhile, forensic experts analyzed the letters for fingerprints and DNA evidence. They also checked Maria's phone records and email history to find clues about her secret lover. The investigation was thorough, and every detail was scrutinized. On the same rainy afternoon, while examining Maria's phone, the detectives found a series of explicit text messages and call logs that led them to suspect Tyler, Maria's 18-year-old stepson. The messages hinted at a strained and complicated sexual relationship between Maria and Tyler. Some of the texts were heated, while others were more explicit and graphically described their sexual relationship. Detective Coco and Officer Montes were shocked by this new revelation. Tyler had always been seen as a troubled teenager, but the extent of his relationship with Maria was unexpected. The detectives knew they had to approach this delicately to get to the truth. The discovery of the love letters and text messages shifted the focus of the investigation. The police now had a clearer direction, and the pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together. They prepared to interrogate Tyler again, this time with new, compelling evidence that could unlock the secrets behind Maria's tragic death. Tyler Sullivan, Maria's 18-year-old stepson, became the focus of the investigation after the discovery of the love letters and text messages. Tyler was a troubled teenager, still struggling with the death of his biological mother and the arrival of Maria into his life. He often acted out, showing signs of resentment towards Maria for taking his mother's place. Despite this, he was intelligent and ambitious, with a passion for music. He spent hours playing his guitar, dreaming of becoming a famous musician. On September 16, 2012, Tyler was brought in for questioning. Detective Martin Coco and Officer Julia Montes conducted the interview. Tyler appeared nervous but tried to remain calm. The detectives began by asking him about his relationship with Maria. Tyler admitted that their relationship was strained, but denied any involvement in her murder. When the detectives presented the love letters, Tyler's demeanor changed. He became visibly upset and defensive. He confessed to the affair, explaining that they started having sex about a year ago. Tyler said he became obsessed with Maria, believing that they could be together if his father David were out of the picture. However, Maria tried to end the affair and focus on her marriage, which frustrated Tyler. The detectives pressed Tyler for more details. They asked him about the night of Maria's murder. Tyler claimed he was at a friend's house, watching movies. The police checked his alibi, but it was weak and lacked concrete evidence. His friend Jake said Tyler was with him, but couldn't remember specific details or times. Tyler's reaction to the interrogation was a mix of anger and fear. He was defensive and argumentative, denying any involvement in the murder while expressing his frustration over Maria ending the affair. The detectives noted his conflicting emotions, which seemed to oscillate between sadness and anger. While Tyler was a prime suspect, the police needed more evidence to link him directly to the crime. They continued to analyze the physical evidence from the crime scene and cross-referenced it with Tyler's statements. The detectives also reviewed security camera footage from the neighborhood, hoping to find any inconsistencies in Tyler's alibi. The investigation into Tyler was intense and thorough. Detective Thompson and Officer Montes were determined to uncover the truth. They knew Tyler had a motive, but they needed solid evidence to prove his involvement. The love letters and text messages were crucial, but they had to build a strong case. The investigation was far from over, and the detectives continued to piece together the puzzle. Tyler remained a key figure in the case, and the police were determined to find justice for Maria. Lily Beth Carter, the Sullivans' 25-year-old neighbor, became another person of interest in the investigation. Lilybeth lived next door and frequently visited the Sullivan house. She had a keen interest in true crime stories and was working on a novel based on real-life events. Lilybeth was known for her observant nature and was often seen taking notes and photos around the neighborhood. On September 17, 2012, the police brought Lilybeth in for questioning. Detective Martin Coco and Officer Julia Montes conducted the interview. Lilybeth appeared calm and cooperative. She explained that she had a passion for writing and was fascinated by true crime. She often visited Maria to discuss her novel and get feedback on her writing. The detectives asked Lilybeth about the morning she discovered Maria's body. Lilybeth recounted the events in detail, describing how she found the studio door slightly open and discovered Maria lying on the floor. She spoke about her shock and horror and how she immediately called 911. The detectives noted that Lilybeth's account was consistent with the initial report. As the questioning continued, the detectives probed deeper into Lilybeth's relationship with the Sullivans. Lilybeth admitted that she often observed the family dynamics, noting the tension between Maria and Tyler. She also mentioned that she had seen Tyler acting suspiciously on several occasions, but didn't think much of it at the time. The detectives asked Lilybeth about her interest in true crime and whether it influenced her actions. Lilybeth explained that her interest was purely academic and creative. She was writing a novel and used her observations to create realistic characters and scenarios. She denied any involvement in Maria's murder and insisted that she was just a concerned neighbor. Lilybeth's calm and cooperative demeanor made it difficult for the detectives to determine if she was hiding anything. They decided to search her house for any evidence that might link her to the crime. They found several notebooks filled with detailed observations about the neighborhood and the Sullivans, but nothing directly incriminating. Despite her cooperation, Lilybeth remained a person of interest. The detectives continued to monitor her closely, looking for any inconsistencies in her story. They also reviewed the security footage from the neighborhood, hoping to find any evidence that could either implicate or clear her. As the investigation into Lilybeth continued, the detectives faced the challenge of distinguishing between her genuine interest in true crime and any potential involvement in Maria's death. The complexity of the case deepened, but the police remained committed to finding the truth and bringing justice for Maria. On September 20, 2012, the investigation took a significant turn. Detective Martin Coco and Officer Julia Montes had gathered enough evidence to identify the murderer. The evidence pointed to Tyler Sullivan, Maria's 18-year-old stepson. Tyler's conflicting emotions and erratic behavior had raised suspicions from the start, but it was the discovery of his fingerprints on the murder weapon that sealed his fate. Tyler was known to be a troubled teenager. He struggled with the recent death of his biological mother and resented Maria for taking her place. Despite his intelligence and passion for music, Tyler's feelings for Maria had evolved into a dangerous mix of hatred and desire. When Maria confronted him about his failing grades and her decision to end their secret affair, Tyler snapped. In a fit of rage and obsession, he attacked her with a heavy sculpture from her studio. The detectives had pieced together the events of that fateful day. Tyler had been at the house, waiting for the right moment. When Maria entered the studio, he followed her. The confrontation escalated quickly, and in his fury, Tyler grabbed the sculpture and struck Maria multiple times, leading to her death. With the evidence in hand, the police prepared to arrest Tyler. On the evening of September 20, they arrived at the Sullivan home. Tyler was in his room, listening to music on his iPod. When the officers entered, Tyler seemed surprised but didn't resist arrest. He was handcuffed and taken to the police station for processing. David Sullivan, Tyler's father, was devastated by the news. He couldn't believe that his son was capable of such a brutal act. The family was torn apart by the revelation, and the community was equally shocked. Neighbors and friends who had known Tyler as a quiet, troubled teen now saw him in a completely different light. The police detailed the evidence during a press conference, explaining how Tyler's obsession with Maria and his inability to control his emotions led to the murder. The discovery of the sexually explicit letters and Tyler's fingerprints on the murder weapon were critical pieces of the puzzle that helped solve the case. As Tyler was taken away, his reaction was a mix of anger and resignation. He knew the evidence against him was overwhelming, and there was no escape from the consequences of his actions. Maria's friends and family were relieved that the murderer had been caught, but the pain of losing Maria remained. The arrest of Tyler Sullivan brought some closure to the case, but the journey to justice was far from over. The next step was the trial, where the full extent of Tyler's actions and motives would be revealed. The trial of Tyler Sullivan began on November 5, 2012, in Summerville, South Carolina. The courtroom was filled with reporters, friends, and family members, all eager to hear the details of the case. The prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney James Bliver, a seasoned lawyer known for his tenacity and thoroughness. He was 45 years old, with a stern demeanor that commanded respect. Bliver argued that Tyler's obsession with Maria, coupled with his anger over her ending their affair, led him to commit the brutal murder. He presented the love letters, text messages, and the forensic evidence linking Tyler to the crime. The prosecution's case was solid, painting a clear picture of Tyler's motive and actions. The defense was handled by public defender Sarah Jane Lemon, a compassionate and determined attorney who had been practicing law for over 20 years. She was 42 years old and known for her dedication to her clients. Lemon argued that Tyler was a troubled teenager who had been deeply affected by his mother's death and was struggling with mental health issues. She claimed that Tyler's actions were not premeditated but a result of emotional turmoil and confusion. Throughout the trial, the emotional toll on Maria's family was evident. Her husband, David Sullivan, sat in the front row, his face etched with grief and disbelief. Friends and family members wept quietly as they listened to the details of Maria's tragic death. After several weeks of testimony and evidence, the jury deliberated for 2 days. On December 3, 2012, they returned with a verdict. Tyler Sullivan was found guilty of second-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. Tyler showed little emotion, his face blank as he listened to his fate. The sentencing took place on December 10, 2012. Tyler was sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge stated that while Tyler's actions were driven by emotional distress, the brutality of the crime warranted a severe punishment. The sentence aimed to provide justice for Maria and her family while acknowledging Tyler's troubled background. Maria's family had mixed reactions to the sentence. Some felt it was too lenient, given the nature of the crime, while others believed it was a fair balance between justice and compassion for Tyler's mental state. The community of Somerville was left to grapple with the aftermath of the tragedy, hoping to find some sense of closure. The trial and sentencing of Tyler Sullivan were widely covered by local media, including WCIV and the Post and Courier. The case served as a somber reminder of the impact of emotional and mental health issues and the devastating consequences they can have. After Tyler Sullivan was sentenced to 25 years in prison, life in Somerville, South Carolina, began to slowly move forward. The trial had been a traumatic experience for everyone involved, leaving lasting impacts on the community. David Sullivan, Maria's husband, struggled to cope with the loss of his wife and the imprisonment of his son. He took a leave of absence from his job and sought counseling to deal with his grief and the overwhelming sense of betrayal. Friends and neighbors provided support, but David often felt isolated. He decided to move to Charleston to start fresh, away from the painful memories in Somerville. Tyler's incarceration was a difficult adjustment for him as well. He was sent to a state correctional facility where he began receiving psychological counseling. The prison system offered educational programs, and Tyler enrolled in classes to complete his high school education and began studying music theory, still clinging to his dream of becoming a musician someday. Lilybeth Carter, the neighbor and true crime enthusiast, was deeply affected by the entire ordeal. She continued to write her novel, now incorporating the harrowing experience she had lived through. The local media, including WCIV and the Post and Courier, feature interviews with Lilybeth, discussing her perspective on the case. Despite the unwanted attention, Lilybeth remained focused on her writing, finding solace in her creative work. Detective Martin Coco and Officer Julia Montes, the lead investigators, received commendations for their diligent work in solving the case. The success of their investigation reinforced their commitment to justice and the importance of thorough police work. The case also highlighted the need for increased support for mental health issues, both within families and the broader community. Life in Somerville gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the memory of Maria Rodarty Sullivan and the tragic events that unfolded remained etched in the hearts of those who knew her. The town's resolve to support mental health initiatives and honor Maria's legacy became a lasting tribute to her life. Gina Aurelio was a 32-year-old pediatric nurse who lived in Richmond, Virginia. She worked at St. Mary's Hospital, where she was known for her kindness and dedication to her young patients. Gina was loved by everyone who knew her. She had a warm smile and a gentle touch that made children feel better, even when they were very sick. Gina lived in a cozy suburban neighborhood with her husband, David, and their 2 children, Delta, aged 7, and Spirit, aged 5. The family was often seen at local events, like the annual Greek festival or enjoying weekends at Belle Isle. Gina was also a member of the Richmond Runners Club and participated in community events like the Ukrop's Monument Avenue 10K. She had a deep passion for health and fitness. Gina enjoyed morning runs and yoga. Every day, she would start with a smoothie from Jamba Juice before heading out for her jog. Her friends and colleagues often saw her as a role model for living a balanced and healthy life. Gina's favorite smoothie was the Green Goodness, packed with kale, spinach, and a hint of apple juice. Gina grew up in Richmond and went to John Marshall High School. She later attended Virginia Commonwealth University, where she studied nursing. She was known for being an excellent student, always eager to learn. After graduating, Gina immediately started working at St. Mary's Hospital and quickly became a valued member of the team. Gina's widowed mother, Karen Ander, was a retired school teacher who lived nearby and often helped with the kids. The family had a close-knit relationship, spending holidays and weekends together. Gina's friends described her as someone who always put others first. She was the kind of person who would drop everything to help a friend in need. In the days before her death, Gina was planning a big family vacation to Hawaii. She had just finished a tough certification course in pediatric care, and she was excited to take a break and spend quality time with her family. Gina was also looking forward to Halloween, helping her kids pick out costumes and planning a neighborhood party. Gina's dreams included opening her own pediatric clinic one day. She wanted to create a place where children could receive not only medical care but also emotional support. She often talked about her ideas with her colleagues and was actively working on a business plan. Her sudden death was a shock to everyone who knew her, leaving a huge void in the community and her family. Gina Aurelio Ander was a bright light whose life was tragically cut short. On the morning of September 12, 2014, the weather in Richmond, Virginia was mild and sunny. Around 8 o'clock a.m., Gina Aurelio Ander's neighbor, Kelly Ray Clarkson, set out for her own morning walk in Bird Park. Kelly was an acquaintance of Gina's and knew that Gina often jogged there. As she walked along the familiar path, she saw a figure lying on the ground near a bench. As Kelly got closer, she recognized Gina's running shoes and felt a sudden chill. Gina was motionless. Kelly rushed to her side, calling out her name, but there was no response. Panic set in as Kelly realized something was terribly wrong. She quickly pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Her voice was trembling as she spoke to the operator.
911, what's your emergency?
Please, you have to send help. My friend, she's not moving. I think she's dead. We're in Bird Park, near the big fountain.
Kelly's distress was palpable, and the dispatcher tried to calm her down, assuring her that help was on the way. Kelly waited, feeling helpless and scared, staying by Gina's side until the paramedics arrived. When the paramedics reached the scene, they confirmed what Kelly had feared. Gina was dead. The news quickly spread through the park, and onlookers gathered, whispering in shock. The area was soon cordoned off with yellow police tape as detectives arrived to investigate. Kelly was in a state of shock, sitting on the grass with a blanket around her shoulders, provided by one of the paramedics. She couldn't stop shaking, her mind racing with questions about what had happened. She had seen Gina just the day before, and everything seemed normal. Now, nothing made sense. Local news stations, like WRIC and NBC 12, began reporting the story, and soon it was all over social media. People in the community were stunned. Gina was well known and loved, and the idea that she could be gone so suddenly was hard to accept. The park, usually a place of joy and relaxation, had become the scene of a tragedy. As the sun continued to rise, casting long shadows over the quiet park, the police began their meticulous work. Kelly was taken to the police station to give a statement, still trying to process the morning's horrific events. By evening, the story had made headlines in local newspapers, including the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Everyone wanted to know how such a terrible thing could happen to someone like Gina. When the police arrived at Bird Park on the morning of September 12, 2014, they acted quickly. Detective Marcus Merritt, a seasoned officer known for his careful approach, led the team. Alongside him was Detective Sarah Rannon, who had joined the force 2 years earlier and was gaining a reputation for her sharp instincts. They approached the scene where Gina Aurelio Ander's body lay near a park bench. The area was quiet, with only the sound of leaves rustling in the breeze. The park, usually filled with joggers and families, felt eerie that morning. The detectives took in the scene. Gina's body was positioned as if she had simply lain down and never gotten up. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, and nothing appeared out of place at first glance. It was puzzling. Detective Merritt and Rannon examined Gina's belongings. Her phone was in her pocket, her headphones were still in her gears, and a partially consumed smoothie cup was nearby. The detectives knew they needed to find out if this was a tragic accident or something more sinister. The smoothie cup caught Detective Rannon's attention. It was from Jamba Juice, a place Gina frequented. She carefully collected it as evidence, suspecting it might hold clues. Meanwhile, forensic experts arrived and began their detailed work, using tools like UV lights and special chemicals to search for any hidden evidence. As the investigation progressed, the detectives learned that Gina had been poisoned. The autopsy revealed she had ingested a lethal dose of digitalis, a toxin from the foxglove plant, which had been mixed into her smoothie. This revelation shifted the case from a mysterious death to a clear case of murder. The police worked methodically, interviewing park visitors and checking security cameras in the area. They hoped to find someone who had seen Gina that morning or noticed anything unusual. Detective Merritt and Rannon kept a close eye on the investigation, ensuring no detail was overlooked. They visited the Jamba Juice where Gina had bought her smoothie, talking to employees and reviewing surveillance footage from the store. The crime scene investigation was thorough. The detectives pieced together Gina's final hours, from purchasing her smoothie to her last moments in the park. The careful collection of evidence and witness testimonies would become crucial in solving the case and bringing Gina's killer to justice. By the end of the day, the park had returned to its usual calm, but the echoes of the morning's tragedy lingered. The community was left in shock, grappling with the loss of a beloved nurse and mother. The police, now armed with vital clues, were determined to find the person responsible for Gina's death. David Aurelio, aged 41, was Gina's husband and a state senator from Harrisonburg, Virginia. Known for his charm and polished public image, David had a darker side that few people saw. Financial troubles and the stress of his demanding job had put a significant strain on his marriage to Gina. The police brought David in for questioning on September 13, 2014. The interrogation room was stark, with a simple table and chairs, a far cry from the luxurious settings David was used to. Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Rannon conducted the interview. David sat across from them, appearing calm and collected, but there was a tension in the air.
Mr. Aurelio, can you tell us where you were on the morning of September 12th?
I was at my office, preparing for a meeting. I got there early, around 7:30 a.m.
The detectives knew that his office was in downtown Richmond, a considerable distance from Bird Park. They needed to verify his alibi.
Did anyone see you there? Can anyone confirm your whereabouts?
Yes, my assistant, Ruby. She can confirm I was there.
As the interrogation continued, the detectives noticed that David maintained a controlled demeanor. But there were moments when his frustration peeked through. When asked about his relationship with Gina, David's facade briefly cracked.
Our marriage was challenging lately, but I love Gina. I would never hurt her.
However, the detectives had discovered that David was under immense financial pressure. He had made bad investments and was heavily in debt. These financial troubles had driven a wedge between him and Gina. The detectives also found out about a large life insurance policy David had taken out on Gina, raising further suspicions.
Mr. Aurelio, did you know about the life insurance policy on your wife?
Yes, but that's not uncommon. It's for our children's future, in case anything happened to her.
The detectives weren't convinced. They pressed on, asking about his recent financial activities and any conflicts with Gina. David's answers were increasingly terse, and his calm demeanor began to crack under the pressure. David's controlled responses and the significant life insurance policy made him a prime suspect. The detectives left the interrogation room with more questions than answers, but were determined to uncover the truth. David's financial desperation and strained marriage painted a grim picture. As the investigation continued, the police searched David's financial records and phone logs, looking for any clues that could connect him to Gina's murder. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, but the detectives knew they needed more evidence to make a solid case. The spotlight was firmly on David Aurelio, and the community watched closely as the investigation into Gina's tragic death unfolded. Karen Ander, age 58, was Gina's mother and a retired school teacher. She had a very close relationship with her daughter and often helped care for Gina's children, Delta and Spirit. Despite her nurturing personality, Karen had a complicated and strained relationship with Gina's husband, David. She often criticized him for how he treated Gina. On September 14, 2014, the police brought Karen in for questioning. Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Rainin conducted the interview in a quiet room at the police station. Karen appeared anxious and tired, her eyes red from crying.
Mrs. Andor, can you tell us about your relationship with David?
David and I have never gotten along. He's always been so controlling and demanding. Gina deserved better.
The detectives knew they needed to dig deeper. They had discovered a secret that Karen had kept hidden for years.
Mrs. Andor, we have reason to believe that you and David were involved in an affair.
Yes, it's true. It started 5 years ago. It was a terrible mistake. I knew it was wrong, but he threatened to ruin my relationship with Gina if I didn't comply.
The detectives exchanged glances. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case. Karen's involvement with David could be seen as a motive, but her admission also pointed towards David's manipulative behavior.
Why didn't you come forward earlier?
I was ashamed. I didn't want to lose my daughter. I didn't know what to do.
Karen's emotional state was clear. She was torn between her guilt and her love for Gina. The detectives pressed on, asking about the morning of Gina's death. "Where were you on September 12th?" Detective Merritt asked.
I was at home. I didn't see Gina that morning. I heard about her death from the news. It was like my worst nightmare came true.
The detectives noted her responses and the genuine anguish in her voice. Karen's confession about the affair with David complicated the investigation, but they still needed more evidence to determine her exact role. After the interrogation, the police continued to gather information. They looked into Karen's background, her phone records, and any possible connections to the poison used to kill Gina. The community was shocked by the revelation of the affair, adding to the already tense atmosphere surrounding the case. As the investigation moved forward, Karen's involvement remained a key piece of the puzzle. The detectives knew they had to untangle the web of relationships and secrets to find out who was truly responsible for Gina's death. On September 15, 2014, the weather in Richmond, Virginia, was cloudy with a chance of rain. Around 3:00 p.m., while searching Gina's home for more clues, the police found something crucial. Detective Sarah Rainin was going through Gina's desk when she discovered a hidden compartment. Inside, there was a small digital recorder. The recorder contains several conversations between Gina and David. These recordings revealed Gina confronting David about his secret gambling addiction and the financial troubles he had been hiding. One recording was particularly alarming. Gina mentioned wanting to leave David and take their children with her, while David responded with cold, threatening remarks. This evidence was a significant breakthrough, providing a clear motive for David and showing how desperate and dangerous he had become. Gina had been planning to leave him, and David's fear of losing his family and his reputation might have driven him to murder. With this new evidence, the detectives returned to questioning David. They confronted him with the recordings, hoping to crack his calm facade. Faced with the recordings, David became visibly distressed, his usual composure breaking down. He admitted to the gambling addiction and the threat, but he said that he had not intended for Gina to die. He had only wanted to scare her into staying with him. David's confession confirmed the police's suspicions and provided them another piece of the puzzle. The detectives documented David's confession and the new evidence carefully, knowing it would be crucial for the trial. The community, still reeling from the shock, hoped for justice for Gina. As the investigation continued, the focus shifted to preparing for the upcoming trial, where David would face the consequences of his actions. The police's diligent search for evidence and the discovery of the recorder played a critical role in solving Gina's murder. David's fear of losing everything had pushed him to a desperate and ultimately fatal act. The meticulous work of the detectives ensured that justice would be served, bringing some closure to Gina's grieving family and community. Lisa Breton, age 29, was a nurse who worked with Gina at the hospital. Known for her ambition and drive, Lisa often competed with Gina for promotions and recognition. Despite their professional rivalry, they maintained a facade of friendship. Lisa was considered a possible suspect because of her competitive nature and proximity to Gina. On September 16, 2014, the police brought Lisa in for questioning. The interrogation room was plain and serious. Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Ranan conducted the interview. Lisa appeared composed, but there was a tension in her eyes. The detectives began by asking Lisa about her relationship with Gina. Lisa described their relationship as friendly, but acknowledged the professional rivalry. She admitted that they both aimed for the same promotions and recognition at the hospital. However, she insisted that their competition was friendly and not personal. The detectives then shifted their focus to Lisa's whereabouts on the morning of Gina's death. Lisa explained that she was at the hospital, starting her shift at 7:00 a.m. The detectives checked this alibi with the hospital records and confirmed that Lisa had indeed clocked in at that time. Colleagues also confirmed seeing her at work. Despite her alibi, the detectives delved deeper into Lisa's background. They found that Lisa had no criminal record and was known for her dedication to her job. However, they also discovered that Lisa had recently faced disappointment. She had been passed over for a promotion that Gina had received. This raised questions about her possible motives. While Lisa's rivalry with Gina was evident, the detectives found no concrete evidence tying her to the murder. The investigation continued, but Lisa remained cooperative and calm throughout the process. Her alibi and lack of motive made it difficult for the police to consider her a primary suspect. As the investigation progressed, the focus shifted back to the more likely suspects. Lisa's involvement seemed less probable given her strong alibi and lack of motive. The detectives continued to piece together the evidence, determined to find justice for Gina. On September 20, 2014, Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Ranan finally got the break they needed. They had discovered the real reason why David Aurelio had been blackmailing Gina's mother, Karen Ander. This shocking twist came to light after a careful review of the hidden camera footage and phone records. David had discovered that he was Karen's son from a secret teenage pregnancy, given up for adoption years ago. He used this information to force Karen into an affair and to keep her silent about his abusive behavior towards Gina. David was under immense financial pressure due to bad investments, failing business ventures, and a severe gambling addiction. His mounting debts had led him to take out a large life insurance policy on Gina. When Gina found out about his gambling and was planning to leave him with the kids, David saw no way out other than to get rid of her. On the morning of Gina's death, David got her usual morning smoothie from Jamba Juice, but this time he added a lethal dose of digitalis. This poison derived from the foxglove plant is not commonly used, making it hard to detect. Gina drank the smoothie before her routine jog, completely unaware of what her husband had done. Within minutes, she collapsed and died on the sidewalk, where her neighbor later found her. The weather on September 21, 2014 was stormy, with heavy rain and thunder. That evening, the police decided to arrest David. They arrived at his office at the state capitol, where he was finishing up a late meeting. The arrest was swift and professional. David, dressed in his usual sharp suit, was caught off guard but tried to maintain his composure. As the officers read him his rights, his face remained stony, but his hands shook slightly. News of David's arrest quickly spread through the media. The Richmond Times-Dispatch reported on the shocking arrest of the state senator, and TV stations like WTVR and WRIC aired footage of David being led away in handcuffs. The community was stunned. Many had admired David for his public service, unaware of the dark secrets he kept. Gina's family, especially her mother Karen, were devastated but relieved. Friends and neighbors gathered to support Gina's children, dealt out in spirit, offering help and comfort during this difficult time. David's arrest marked the beginning of the end of a tragic story filled with deceit, betrayal, and loss. The community of Richmond was left to pick up the pieces and support Gina's family as they faced the long road ahead. The trial of David Aurelio started in January 2015 at the Richmond Circuit Court. The courtroom was filled with reporters, friends, and family members of both David and Gina. The Richmond Times-Dispatch and local TV stations covered the trial closely, keeping the community updated on every detail. The prosecution was led by Richard Huckley, a 50-year-old attorney known for his dedication to justice. Huckley was determined to prove that David had planned and executed the murder of his wife, Gina. He presented the recordings found on the hidden camera, which showed David's violent temper and threats towards Gina. Huckley also highlighted the life insurance policy and David's gambling debts as motives. On the other side, the defense attorney, Julia Indio, was 45 years old and known for her calm and sharp legal skills. She argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that David was being framed. Indio pointed out that there were no witnesses to David actually poisoning Gina and tried to cast doubt on the reliability of the evidence. Gina's family sat through the trial with heavy hearts. Her mother, Karen Andert, was often seen wiping away tears, while Gina's children, Delta and Spirit, were too young to understand the full extent of what was happening, but were deeply affected by the loss of their mother. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury found David Aurelio guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. David showed no emotion, but his hands trembled slightly. The judge sentenced him to 20 years in prison with the possibility of parole in 5 years. The community of Richmond had mixed reactions. Some felt the sentence was just, given the cruelty of the crime, while others were shocked that a state senator could commit such an act. Gina's friends and family felt a sense of justice, but also a deep sadness that nothing could bring Gina back. Reporters from the Richmond Times-Dispatch and local news stations interviewed people outside the courthouse. Many expressed relief that justice was served, but also concern for Gina's children, who would grow up without their parents. The trial's outcome affected everyone involved. Karen Andert struggled with the dual betrayal of losing her daughter and discovering her son's true nature. Gina's colleagues at the hospital remembered her dedication and kindness, setting up a scholarship in her name to help future nurses. David's trial and conviction brought some closure to the community, but the impact of his actions would be felt for years to come. After the trial, life in Richmond, Virginia, slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. For Gina Aurelio Ander's family and friends, however, the scars left by her tragic death would take much longer to heal. David Aurelio's conviction brought a sense of closure to Gina's loved ones. They found solace in knowing that justice had been served for Gina, even as they grappled with the pain of her absence. The community rallied around them, offering support and condolences during their time of grief. For Delta and Spirit, Gina's children, life would never be the same. They were left without a mother, their innocence shattered by the cruel actions of their father. But with the love and support of their extended family and community, they began the long journey of healing and rebuilding their lives. As for Karen Andert, Gina's mother, the trial marked the end of a nightmare. David's blackmail had been a heavy burden to bear, but with David behind bars, she could finally breathe a sigh of relief. She found solace in knowing that she had helped bring her daughter's killer to justice. For Detective Marcus Merritt and Detective Sarah Rannon, the trial was a bittersweet victory. They had worked tirelessly to unravel the truth behind Gina's murder, and seeing David Aurelio behind bars was a testament to their dedication and perseverance. But they knew that their work was far from over. There were other cases to solve, other families seeking closure, and they were determined to continue fighting for justice. Though Gina Aurelio Andert was gone, her spirit lived on in the hearts of those who loved her. And as the community stood together, united in grief and remembrance, they vowed never to forget the woman who had touched so many lives. Lily Vivance, a warm-hearted and caring individual, was a pillar of her family. At the age of 40, she dedicated her life to her husband and 2 children, Vicky and Becton, ensuring their happiness and well-being. Her nurturing personality extended beyond the confines of her home, as she actively participated in her children's lives, organizing playdates and engaging in various activities that fostered their growth and development. She was known among her friends and neighbors as a pillar of support, always ready with a listening ear and a helping hand. In addition to her role as a loving mother, Lily pursued her passion for writing as a freelance writer. She immersed herself in the world of online publications, contributing articles that showcased her talent and creativity. Lily's dedication to her craft was evident in every piece she produced, capturing the attention of readers and earning her a respectable reputation within the writing community. March of 2004 was a time of hope and anticipation for Lily. The cherry blossoms bloomed, painting the streets of Beaverton, Oregon with delicate shades of pink. The local community buzzed with excitement for the upcoming St. Patrick's Day Parade, a cherished tradition that brought together people from all walks of life. As we delve deeper into this true crime case, we will unravel the web of deception that entangled Lily Vivance. Join us as we navigate the twists and turns of this tragic tale, questioning the true nature of those closest to Lily in a quest for knowledge and justice. In a quiet neighborhood of Beaverton, Oregon, tragedy struck on the morning of March 29, 2004. Lily Vivance, a devoted wife and mother, met a horrifying fate within the walls of her own home. The discovery of her lifeless body sent shockwaves through the close-knit community, leaving friends and family in a state of disbelief. The grim revelation was made by Patty Berlin, a trusted family friend who had come over for a routine visit. Little did she know that this visit would forever change her life. As Patty entered the Vivance residence, the atmosphere seemed eerily still. The air carried a sense of unease, as if a dark secret was lurking behind closed doors. As she made her way through the house, Patty's heart sank when she stumbled upon Lily's lifeless body. The room was filled with an eerie silence, broken only by the sound of Patty's trembling breath. She immediately dialed emergency services, her voice filled with anguish as she relayed the devastating news to the dispatcher. Within minutes, the police arrived at the scene, their sirens piercing the tranquility of the neighborhood. The officers carefully examined the crime scene, meticulously documenting every detail. The room where Lily's body lay became a haunting tableau of sorrow and unanswered questions. News of the tragic incident spread like wildfire throughout the community. The local media outlets, such as the Beaverton Tribune and KATU News, were quick to report on the shocking discovery. The town, usually known for its peaceful, blandly suburban charm, was now gripped by a sense of fear and uncertainty. The tragic investigation into the death of Lily Vivance would prove to be a complex and arduous task for the authorities as they sought to uncover the truth behind this chilling crime. The Beaverton Police Department swiftly responded to the distressing call on the morning of March 29, 2004. Detectives Audrey Buscare and Rainey Pochette, seasoned investigators with a reputation for their unwavering determination, were assigned to the case. As they arrived at the scene, a sense of urgency filled the air, and their focused expressions mirrored the gravity of the situation. The crime scene, Lily Vivance's terrene home, became the center of meticulous scrutiny. Every inch of the house was combed through with painstaking precision as the detectives sought to unravel the truth behind Lily's untimely demise. The room where she was tragically suffocated to death with a pillow presented a haunting sight. The air hung heavy with the scent of despair, as if the very walls mourned the loss of a beloved member of the community. Despite the absence of any visible signs of struggle or forced entry, the detectives were determined to leave no stone unturned. They meticulously examined every nook and cranny, searching for even the tiniest clue that could shed light on the chilling mystery. The atmosphere crackled with a mix of suspense and anticipation as the investigators methodically collected evidence, ensuring that no detail was overlooked. The investigation team's efforts were complemented by cutting-edge forensic technology, which brought a new level of precision to the examination of the crime scene. Dusting for fingerprints, analyzing DNA samples, and scouring the area for trace evidence became routine tasks for the forensic experts involved in the case. The room was transformed into a laboratory of truth, where science and logic intertwined in the pursuit of justice. As news of the shocking crime spread, the community of Beaverton united in grief and fear. The local media outlets, such as the Beaverton Gazette and the Oregon Daily News, covered the story extensively, highlighting the impact of the tragedy on the close-knit neighborhood. March of 2004 became a time of collective unease in Beaverton as the investigation continued to unfold. The detectives, driven by their commitment to justice, worked tirelessly day and night. The weight of responsibility rested on their shoulders as they sought to bring closure to Lily Vivance's grieving family and restore a sense of security to the community. Mike Vivance, a 46-year-old man from Beaverton, Oregon, became the prime suspect in the shocking murder case of his wife, Lily Vivance. The investigation revealed a web of secrets and lies that Mike had carefully hidden from his beloved wife. Described by neighbors as reserved and analytical, Mike had always presented himself as a devoted husband and father. However, behind closed doors, he was running an online business that was far from the idyllic family life he portrayed. The police, led by detectives Audrey Buscare and Rainey Pochette, delved deep into Mike's hidden world, uncovering a potential motive rooted in his fear of Lily discovering his illicit activities. Mike's secret online business was no ordinary venture. The investigation revealed that Mike had set up a sophisticated network of buyers and sellers using code names and encrypted communication channels to evade detection. He operated under the guise of a legitimate business, using a front company to launder money and cover his tracks. The police meticulously analyzed his financial records, tracing the flow of funds and uncovering a complex web of transactions that pointed directly to Mike's involvement in some illegal trade. As the detectives interrogated Mike, his facade of innocence began to crumble. Anger and defensiveness seeped through his carefully crafted veneer, raising suspicions among the investigators. The pieces of the puzzle started to fit together. Mike's possible motive became clear. He couldn't afford for Lily to discover the truth about his secret internet activities, as it would not only jeopardize his freedom and finances, but also expose their family to danger. As the case unfolded, the community of Beaverton watched with bated breath, wondering if the unassuming Mike Vivance was indeed capable of such a heinous act. The answer to that question lay buried in the gigabytes of data on his home computer and in the depths of the internet's shadowy corners. Wade Caterpie, a 24-year-old close friend of Lily Vivance, emerged as a person of interest in the ongoing investigation into her tragic death. In the tranquil suburban town of Beaverton, Oregon, where everyone seemingly knows everyone, Wade was known for his vibrant personality and close bond with Lily. However, beneath the friendly facade, there may have been a simmering envy towards Lily's husband, Mike Vivance. As the investigation deepened, detectives Audrey Buscare and Rainey Pochette turned their attention to Wade, seeking to uncover any potential motivations or involvement in this heinous crime. The police have been diligently piecing together the puzzle of Lily's murder, leaving no stone unturned. Wade's initial shock and disbelief upon hearing the news quickly transformed into a defensive stance as the police questioned him. He vehemently denied any wrongdoing, but the detectives remained steadfast in their pursuit of the truth. Their investigation has revealed a series of intriguing details surrounding Wade's relationship with Lily and his potential motive. The authorities uncovered evidence suggesting that Wade may have harbored deep-seated feelings of envy towards Mike Vivance. Friends and acquaintances recall Wade's occasional remarks about Mike's success and the seemingly perfect life he had built with Lily. These feelings of envy, coupled with Wade's close proximity to the couple, have raised suspicions among the investigators. Furthermore, the detectives discovered a series of heated arguments between Wade and Lily in the months leading up to her untimely demise. These arguments centered around Wade's discontent with his own life and his perceived inadequacies when compared to Mike. The police explored whether these arguments could have escalated into something far more sinister. As the investigation progresses, the detectives left no stone unturned. They were meticulously analyzing phone records, interviewing potential witnesses, and scrutinizing Wade's alibi during the time of the crime. The detectives are also examining Wade's online presence, searching for any clues that may shed light on his potential involvement. As the investigation into Lily Vivance's tragic murder unfolded, the police were met with a breakthrough that would send shockwaves through the community. On a rainy afternoon in Beaverton, Oregon, a passerby stumbled upon a hidden compartment in Mike Vivance's home office, unearthing a dark secret that would expose the true nature of his sinister activities. Inside the hidden compartment, the police discovered a trove of incriminating documents and records that revealed the extent of Mike's involvement in a clandestine online business. It was revealed that Mike was the owner-operator of a website known as Live Girls Now, which operated as an international online slave market for women and girls. The evidence collected painted a chilling picture of the operation. Detailed records showed the names, ages, and personal information of hundreds of victims, each one a tragic casualty of this heinous crime. The website had been operating for 5 years, exploiting vulnerable individuals and perpetuating a cycle of abuse, suffering, and slavery. The police wasted no time in seizing the evidence, meticulously documenting each piece to build a solid case against Mike Vivance. They worked tirelessly, cross-referencing the information with missing person reports and collaborating with law enforcement agencies across the globe to identify and rescue the victims involved. As news of the investigation spread, shockwaves rippled through the community, leaving residents in disbelief that such a dark operation could have been operating right under their noses. The case garnered significant media attention, with local news outlets shining a spotlight on the chilling crimes committed by Mike Vivance. March of 2004 became a turning point in the fight against human trafficking, as the revelations surrounding Live Girls now prompted a wave of public outrage and a renewed commitment to combat this insidious crime. Non-profit organizations and law enforcement agencies joined forces, launching awareness campaigns and dedicating resources to rescue victims and bring the perpetrators to justice. The investigation into Lily Vivance's murder had taken an unexpected turn, uncovering a web of darkness that extended far beyond the confines of her tragic demise. As the police continued their relentless pursuit of justice, they were determined to ensure that the victims of Live Girls now would find solace and that Mike Vivance would face the full weight of the law. In a shocking turn of events, the investigation into Lily Vivance's tragic murder took an unexpected twist with the emergence of Harris Caltran, a 21-year-old amateur detective with a troubled past. Known for his run-ins with the law, Harris had a rap sheet filled with violence towards women, dating back to when he was just 12 years old. Despite his checkered history, Harris presented himself as a determined amateur detective seeking justice for Lily. The police, already grappling with the complexities of the case, turned their attention towards Harris. They interrogated him extensively, probing into his motives and potential involvement in the crime. Harris's anger and frustration were palpable as he vehemently denied any connection to Lily's murder. To understand Harris's possible involvement, the police delved into his background. They discovered that Harris had a fascination with true crime stories and had spent countless hours studying criminal investigations. His knowledge of forensic techniques and crime scene analysis, while amateur, was still impressive, leading some to believe he could be an asset to the investigation. As the investigation progressed, the police uncovered a series of emails exchanged between Harris and Lily. These emails revealed a shared interest in true crime and a mutual desire to uncover the truth. The police wondered if Harris's involvement went beyond mere curiosity. To further complicate matters, Harris had recently been involved in a local dispute with a group of individuals who were known to be involved in criminal activities. The police explored the possibility of a connection between this dispute and Lily's murder, but the evidence remained circumstantial at best. With the investigation still ongoing, the police were left with more questions than answers. Was Harris a genuine crusader for justice, or was he hiding a dark secret? Only time would tell. In a shocking turn of events, the true mastermind behind the heinous murder of Lily Vivance was revealed. After weeks of tireless investigation, the police identified and apprehended the culprit responsible for snuffing out the life of this beloved mother and freelance writer. Mike Vivance, the husband of the victim, was exposed as the cold-blooded murderer who orchestrated this chilling crime. Mike's motive was that he feared Lily's discovery of his illicit activities. The discovery of his secret online business, Live Girls Now, shed light on his sinister motives. This website, operating as an international online slave market for women and girls, was a dark and twisted operation, a sort of eBay for human beings that exploited the vulnerability of innocent lives. The evidence against Mike was overwhelming, leaving investigators with no doubt about his involvement in Lily's murder. The police found incriminating documents and records hidden in a secret compartment of his home office. These damning materials provided a glimpse into the depths of his depravity. It is truly horrifying to think that such a heinous enterprise was thriving right under the noses of his wife, kids, and the unsuspecting community. The police swiftly apprehended Mike Vivance, bringing an end to his reign of terror. The arrest took place in the very same town where the infamous Oregon Vortex, a mysterious natural phenomenon, had captured the attention of the nation just a few years prior. The arrest sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community of Beaverton, Oregon. Friends and neighbors were left in disbelief, struggling to reconcile the image they had of a devoted husband and father with the cold-blooded killer he turned out to be. This case serves as a stark reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, even within the confines of a seemingly idyllic suburban neighborhood. As the news of Mike Vivance's arrest spread, it served as a sobering reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind closed doors. It is a testament to the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the importance of community vigilance in safeguarding against such atrocities. The trial that followed the shocking murder of Lily Vivance in March 2004 gripped the small suburb of Beaverton, Oregon. As the courtroom doors swung open, District Attorney Rebecca Bailovsky and Defense Attorney David Dean Buscare prepared to battle it out in front of a jury of 12 ordinary citizens. The prosecution wasted no time in presenting a compelling case against the defendant, Mike Vivance. With meticulous attention to detail, they painted a vivid picture of Lily's tragic fate and the sinister underbelly of Mike's secret internet business. Expert witnesses, such as forensic pathologists and computer analysts, took the stand to testify to the overwhelming evidence against the accused. One of the key pieces of evidence presented was the discovery of a hidden compartment in Mike's home office. Inside, the police found incriminating documents and records of his online slave market, Live Girls Now. The courtroom gasped in disbelief as the extent of Mike's depravity was revealed. The prosecution argued that Mike's fear of Lily uncovering his illicit activities drove him to commit the heinous act. Defense attorney David Dean Buscare fought tooth and nail to undermine the prosecution's case. He attempted to cast doubt on the validity of the evidence, questioning the reliability of witnesses and challenging the methods used to gather information. Buscare argued that the hidden compartment could have been tampered with, suggesting the possibility of a setup. After weeks of testimonies, cross-examinations, and impassioned closing arguments, the jury retired to deliberate. The town held its breath as the verdict was announced. Guilty, Mike Vivance was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. As the courtroom emptied, Lily's family and friends found a bittersweet solace in the verdict. Justice had been served, but the void left by Lily's absence remained. The community, scarred by the tragedy, vowed to come together and support one another in the healing process. After the trial that captivated the small town of Beaverton, Oregon, the lives of those involved took different paths. Lily Vivance's family, still grappling with the pain of their loss, found solace in the support of their community. The local church, St. Mary's, organized a memorial service to honor Lily's memory, bringing together friends, neighbors, and even strangers who were touched by her kindness. The service was filled with tears and heartfelt tributes, as people shared stories of Lily's impact on their lives. Wade Caterpie, burdened by his unrequited love for Lily, sought help from a grief counselor named Dr. Darna Sanchez. Dr. Sanchez, a respected psychologist in the community, guided Wade through the process of healing and self-discovery. Through this journey, Wade learned to channel his emotions into positive outlets, such as writing poetry and volunteering at the local animal shelter. Harris Caltran, the amateur detective with a troubled past, continued his quest for justice. Inspired by Lily's tragic fate, Harris dedicated himself to advocating for victims of crime. He started a blog called Justice Seekers, where he shared stories of unsolved cases and raised awareness about the importance of community involvement in crime prevention. As for Mike Vivance, his life took a drastic turn behind bars. Incarcerated at the Oregon State Penitentiary, Mike was confined to a small cell surrounded by concrete walls and steel bars. Stripped of his freedom, he was forced to confront the consequences of his heinous actions. In prison, Mike underwent counseling and therapy to address the underlying issues that led him down a path of darkness. March of 2004 marked a turning point for the community of Beaverton. The tragic events surrounding Lily Vivance's murder shook the town to its core, but it also brought people together in a shared commitment to healing and justice. The story of Lily Vivance's murder serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath seemingly ordinary lives. It highlights the importance of trust, honesty, and the pursuit of justice. Jennifer Lee Trilogy, a 34-year-old resident of Mesa, Arizona, was a dedicated and ambitious woman. In July of 2008, Jennifer's life seemed to be on track for success. She held the position of chief telemarketer at Credit Cards for Kids, an operation said to be, quote, committed to helping children build a secure financial future. Jennifer's unwavering dedication to her job made her a respected figure within the organization. Outside of work, Jennifer was an active member of her community. She volunteered at the local homeless shelter, organizing food drives and fundraising events. Her selflessness and genuine care for others made her a beloved figure in Mesa. Jennifer's commitment to her community was even recognized by the local newspaper, the Mesa Tribune, which featured her in an article highlighting her efforts to make a positive impact. Beyond her professional and charitable life, Jennifer's warm-hearted nature extended to her family and friends. She cherished every moment spent with her loved ones, making sure to create lasting memories. Her positive outlook on life and determination to make a difference in the world made her a beacon of hope for those who knew her. But little did Jennifer know that her seemingly perfect life was about to take a dark and unexpected turn. Jennifer's story takes an unexpected turn when she becomes suspicious of her husband's involvement in a secretive gym group. Curiosity gets the better of her, and she embarks on a journey to uncover the truth. Little did she know that this decision would lead her down a path filled with danger and intrigue. As we delve deeper into this case, we will explore the details surrounding Jennifer's life, her aspirations, and the events that transpired in the blisteringly hot Arizonan summer of 2008. Stay tuned for the shocking revelations that lie ahead. On a scorching summer day in July 2008, tragedy struck the peaceful suburban neighborhood of Mesa, Arizona. Jennifer Lee Trilogy, a 34-year-old woman known for her dedication and warm-hearted nature, met a gruesome and untimely end within the walls of her own home. The details of this heinous crime sent shockwaves through the community, leaving residents fearful and on edge. It was Jennifer's close friend, Stacy Brewer-Guyton, who made the horrifying discovery. As she entered Jennifer's home that day, expecting to find her vibrant and full of life, she was instead met with a scene of unimaginable horror. Jennifer lay lifeless on the floor, her body bearing the brutal marks of over 30 stab wounds inflicted with a steak knife. The sheer violence and cruelty of the act sent shivers down Stacy's spine, leaving her overwhelmed with shock and disbelief. The authorities were immediately contacted, and a sense of urgency filled the air. As news of Jennifer's tragic fate spread, the community rallied together in grief and solidarity. Vigils were held, and heartfelt tributes poured in from friends, family, and even strangers who had been touched by Jennifer's kindness. The media, always hungry for sensational stories, descended upon Mesa, eager to uncover every detail and bring the truth to light. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of the unsolved crime hung heavy over the neighborhood. Fear and suspicion lingered in the air, casting a shadow over once trusting relationships. The community yearned for closure, for justice to be served, and for the memory of Jennifer Lee Trilogy to be honored. The authorities wasted no time in responding to the distressing call made by Stacy Brewer-Guyton that came in on that fateful July day in 2008. A team of dedicated police officers swiftly arrived at the scene, ready to unravel the mystery surrounding Jennifer Lee Trilogy's brutal murder. Led by Detective Oliver Sequan, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for his tenacity and attention to detail, the police meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene. The once tranquil home in the suburban neighborhood of Mesa, Arizona, now bore the chilling marks of a heinous crime. As Detective Kwan surveyed the scene, his eyes were immediately drawn to the bloodstains that marred the once pristine surroundings. The crimson trails seemed to tell a haunting story of the violence that had unfolded within her house. The once pristine surroundings were now stained with Jennifer's blood, a grim reminder of the brutal act that had taken place. The murder weapon, a steak knife from the kitchen, lay discarded nearby, serving as a chilling testament to the violence inflicted upon her. Detective Thompson and his team employed a variety of tools and methods to gather evidence. They carefully collected fingerprints from various surfaces, dusted for DNA, and meticulously photographed the scene from every angle. The detectives also interviewed neighbors, hoping to gather any information that could lead them to the perpetrator. As the investigation progressed, the media began to take notice. Local news outlets, such as the Mesa Tribune and Channel 12 News, reported on the shocking murder that had rocked the community. The police delved into Jennifer's personal life, discovering that Jennifer had recently become suspicious of her husband's gym group, a tight-knit community known as Fit Life Warriors. The group, led by charismatic lifestyle guru Bert Hensley Brecht, had gained a reputation for their intense workouts and exclusive membership. As the summer of 2008 unfolded, the residents of Mesa anxiously awaited justice for Jennifer Lee Trilogy. The pressure mounted on the police from people from all walks of life to solve the crime and bring closure to Jennifer's grieving loved ones. Devin Trilogy, a 38-year-old man with a charming personality, found himself at the center of a chilling crime that left a quiet suburban neighborhood in Mesa, Arizona in shock. As the investigation into the murder of his wife, Jennifer Lee Trilogy, unfolded, a dark secret began to emerge, threatening to unravel the lives of those involved. The police, determined to uncover the truth, focused their attention on Devin as the prime suspect. With his charismatic demeanor and ability to charm those around him, he had managed to maintain a facade of love and affection. However, beneath this seemingly loving exterior, a sinister side lay hidden. During the intense interrogation, Devin's emotions fluctuated between anger and an unsettling calmness. The detectives, armed with their questions and a desire for justice, probed into his possible motives. They delved into his personal life, searching for any signs of discontent or animosity within the marriage. As the investigation progressed, the police pieced together the events leading up to that fateful day in July 2008. They discovered that Jennifer had recently uncovered a secret about her husband's gym group, a group that Devin was deeply involved in. Whispers of illegal activities and connections to organized crime began to circulate within the investigation. The authorities meticulously combed through the evidence, leaving no stone unturned. They analyzed phone records, financial transactions, and witness statements, hoping to find a solid link to the crime. The murder weapon, a steak knife from the kitchen, was carefully examined for fingerprints and DNA, providing crucial clues that would help unravel the truth. The weight of the investigation bore down on Devin, his every move scrutinized by both the police and the public. The once charming man now faced a storm of suspicion and doubt. Would the evidence be enough to bring justice for Jennifer's untimely demise? Stacy Burgaitan, a 36-year-old woman from Mesa, Arizona, found herself under the watchful eye of the authorities as a potential suspect in the tragic murder of her close friend, Jennifer Lee Trilogy. Stacy, known for her outgoing personality and love for adventure, was an avid gym goer and enjoyed exploring the great outdoors of Arizona. In July of 2008, when the murder took place, Stacy's life took an unexpected turn as she became entangled in a web of suspicion and scrutiny. As a Jungian dream analyst, Stacy prided herself on her ability to interpret dreams and uncover hidden meanings. She often shared her insights with friends and clients, helping them navigate the complexities of their subconscious minds. She also relied heavily on her spirit animal, an ostrich named Angela Reese Crosswind. But behind her fanciful and carefree facade, jealousy brewed within her towards Jennifer, who seemed to have it all: a successful career, a loving husband, and a seemingly perfect life. The police interrogated Stacy relentlessly, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. They probed into her possible motives, scrutinizing her every word and reaction. The intensity of the investigation took a toll on Stacy, evoking a range of emotions from anger to a desperate calmness. During the interrogation, Stacy's mind raced with memories of her friendship with Jennifer. They had shared countless moments together, from their early morning workouts at the local gym to exploring the beautiful landscapes of Arizona. Stacy couldn't help but feel a pang of envy whenever Jennifer's achievements were celebrated, as if her own accomplishments paled in comparison. Stacy's life was turned upside down as she became the subject of public scrutiny. Her every move was dissected and analyzed by armchair detectives and gossip-hungry journalists. The weight of suspicion bore down on her, threatening to crush her spirit and tarnish her reputation. In a shocking turn of events, the investigation into the tragic murder of Jennifer Lee Trilogy took an unexpected twist. The once respected workplace of Jennifer, Credit Cards for Kids, was revealed to be a deceitful company operating as a pyramid scheme, preying on innocent and vulnerable children. This revelation added a new layer of intrigue and possible motive to the already twisted tale of murder and deceit. Credit Cards for Kids, a seemingly noble organization, purported to provide financial education for children. However, behind the facade of innocence, it was discovered that the company engaged in predatory practices, enticing children to obtain credit cards with exorbitant interest rates. These poor and vulnerable children were then subjected to relentless harassment as they struggled to pay off the staggering 45% interest rate imposed by the company. The revelation of this sinister scheme sent shockwaves through the community as parents and authorities grappled with the realization that such an exploitative operation had been operating right under their noses. The public demanded justice for the innocent victims ensnared in this web of deceit. As the investigation into Jennifer Lee Trilogy's murder deepened, detectives began to explore the possible connection between her untimely demise and the fraudulent activities of Credit Cards for Kids. The police meticulously examined financial records, seeking any potential links between Jennifer and the company's downfall. They interviewed former employees, desperate to uncover any clues that could shed light on the motive behind her brutal slaying. Investigators speculated that Jennifer, being a dedicated and ambitious woman, may have stumbled upon the dark secrets of credit cards for kids. Perhaps she had uncovered evidence of the company's illegal activities, putting her in grave danger. This theory raised questions about who stood to benefit from silencing her permanently. As the investigation continued, the police intensified their efforts to dismantle the fraudulent empire of credit cards for kids. They collaborated with federal agencies, including the Federal Trade Commission and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, to bring the perpetrators to justice and protect the innocent victims ensnared in this heartless scheme. As the investigation into Jennifer Lee Trilogy's tragic murder unfolded, another key figure emerged: Martin O'Hurley, her closest friend and co-worker at Credit Cards for Kids. At just 24 years old, Martin was known for his quick thinking and unwavering loyalty towards Jennifer. However, beneath his friendly demeanor, a troubled past lurked, threatening to expose a side of him that no one could have anticipated. On the surface, Martin appeared to be an ordinary young man, dedicated to his work and always ready with a joke to lighten the mood. But as the police delved deeper into his life, they discovered a series of unsettling incidents that hinted at a darker side. Born and raised in Mesa, Arizona, Martin grew up in a modest neighborhood, surrounded by the desert landscape that defined the region. His childhood was marked by hardship, as his parents struggled to make ends meet. Despite the challenges, Martin excelled academically, earning a scholarship to attend Mesa High School. It was during his time at Mesa High that Martin's troubles began to surface. He fell in with a group of rebellious classmates, known locally as the Desert Punks. This tight-knit crew, notorious for their wild parties and reckless behavior, quickly became Martin's new social circle. Their influence led him down a path of minor criminal activity, including vandalism and petty theft. As the questioning intensified, it was revealed that Martin had been moonlighting as a prostitute, offering his services to male clients in the Mesa area. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation, painting a picture of a man leading a double life. One of Martin's frequent customers turned out to be none other than Lee Trilogy, Jennifer's husband. The police were astounded by this connection, as it added another layer of complexity to the already twisted tale of murder and deceit. It raised questions about the dynamics between Martin, Jennifer, and Devin, and whether this illicit relationship played a role in Jennifer's untimely demise. The truth finally emerged, revealing Lee Trilogy as the cold-blooded murderer. Devin, age 38, had been leading a double life, hiding his involvement with a secret gym group called Fit Life Warriors. This group, unbeknownst to the community, was exclusively for men and served as a male-only brothel/gay swingers club that would procure handsome male lovers for their members. This revelation shed new light on Devin's motive for the murder and exposed the dark underbelly of the seemingly idyllic suburban community in Mesa, Arizona. The police, through diligent investigation, pieced together the evidence that linked Devin to Fit Life Warriors. They uncovered explicit messages exchanged between Devin and other members of the group, revealing a web of deceit and betrayal. It became apparent that Devin's involvement with Fit Life Warriors had become a source of conflict within his marriage to Jennifer. The discovery of Devin's secret life and his connection to Fit Life Warriors sent shockwaves through the community. Residents were left questioning the true nature of the seemingly perfect lives that surrounded them. As the police delved deeper into the connection between Devin and Fit Life Warriors, they uncovered a network of notable individuals who were part of this secret club. Interviews with club members revealed a tight-knit sex community that operated under a code of secrecy. The police worked tirelessly to gather information from these individuals, hoping to unravel the full extent of Devin's involvement and the motive behind Jennifer's murder. The arrest of Lee Trilogy sent shockwaves through the community as the reality of a heinous crime committed in their midst became all too real. The community, still reeling from the revelations surrounding Fit Life Warriors, came together to support Jennifer's family and honor her memory. The impact of this tragic event would forever leave its mark on Mesa, Arizona, serving as a reminder that darkness can lurk behind even the most seemingly idyllic facades. The trial that followed Jennifer Lee Trilogy's tragic murder in July 2008 brought the community together as they sought justice for the beloved woman whose life was brutally cut short. The courtroom was filled with tension and raw emotions as the prosecution and defense presented their cases, each vying to sway the jury's decision. The prosecution, led by determined prosecutor Angela Koss, known for her track record of successful convictions, meticulously laid out the evidence against the prime suspect, Devin Trilogy. They presented the jury with a compelling argument, weaving together a narrative that painted Devin as a man driven by secrets and betrayal. The prosecution called upon witnesses who testified to Devin's volatile temper and his connection to the murder weapon, a steak knife found in the Trilogy household. The defense, represented by Cole Robbie, a skilled attorney renowned for his ability to cast doubt on the prosecution's claims, sought to challenge the evidence presented. They questioned the reliability of the witnesses, highlighting inconsistencies in their testimonies. The defense argued that there was no concrete proof linking Devin to the crime and urged the jury to consider alternative theories. Throughout the trial, Jennifer's grieving family sat in the courtroom, their eyes fixed on the proceedings. They clung to the hope that justice would be served for their beloved daughter, sister, and friend. Friends and supporters of Jennifer filled the gallery, their presence a testament to the impact she had on their lives. As the trial progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. Local newspapers, such as the Mesa Tribune, dedicated coverage to the trial, providing daily updates on the proceedings. Television news stations, including Channel 8 News, broadcasted reports from outside the courthouse, capturing the public's attention. After days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the jury foreperson stood and announced that Devin Trilogy was found guilty of first-degree murder. The room erupted with a mix of relief and sorrow as Jennifer's family and friends processed the weight of the decision. Devin was subsequently sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentencing brought a sense of closure for Jennifer's loved ones, knowing that the person responsible for her untimely death would be held accountable. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the community, forever altering the lives of those involved. Jennifer's memory lives on, not only in the hearts of her family and friends, but also in the collective consciousness of Mesa, Arizona. In the wake of the trial, the lives of those involved took a dramatic turn. Martin O'Hurley, Jennifer's best friend and co-worker, found solace in the support of his friends and family. He enrolled in a local community college, determined to pursue a degree in criminal justice. Inspired by the tireless efforts of the detectives who worked on Jennifer's case, Martin aspired to become a detective himself one day. Stacy Brewer-Guyton, Jennifer's close friend, sought refuge in the healing power of nature. She embarked on a solo hiking trip through the picturesque landscapes of Sedona, Arizona. The breathtaking red rock formations and serene desert vistas provided solace and a sense of peace amidst the chaos that had enveloped her life. Stacy documented her journey on her blog, Wandering Spirit, where she shared her experiences and reflections with her growing community of followers. Devin Trilogy, the cold-blooded murderer, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial had exposed the dark underbelly of the seemingly idyllic suburban community, leaving a lasting impact on its residents. The media frenzy surrounding the case had subsided, but the scars remained. As time passed, the wounds began to heal, but the memory of Jennifer and the events surrounding her tragic death remained etched in the collective consciousness of the community. The impact of the case had forever altered the lives of those involved, serving as a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of justice. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we are reminded of the chilling events that unfolded in Mesa, Arizona in July 2008. Jennifer Lee Trilogy's life was tragically cut short, exposing a web of secrets, deceit, and betrayal. This story serves as a haunting reminder that darkness can lurk within the seemingly ordinary, and that the pursuit of truth can unveil the most unsettling realities. Join us next time as we delve into another captivating true crime case. In the heart of the Great Lakes region, Lana Tomkins was a beacon of potential and creativity. At 26 years old, she hailed from Michigan's bustling city of Detroit, a place that, despite its economic struggles, remained a hub of artistic and cultural diversity. Lana was a graphic designer by trade, her skills honed at the College for Creative Studies, a prestigious institution known for its contribution to the arts. Her portfolio, a vibrant tapestry of digital illustrations and branding projects, was a testament to her ambition and talent. Lana's roots were firmly planted in a close-knit family. She was the youngest daughter of Michael Tomkins, a dedicated automotive engineer at General Motors, and Susan Tomkins, a librarian whose love for books was infectious. Lana's siblings, elder brother David, an up-and-coming lawyer, and sister Emily, a pediatric nurse, shared a strong bond with her, rooted in mutual respect and admiration. Her personality was a blend of warmth and determination, traits that endeared her to friends and colleagues alike. Described by her peers as the life of the party, she had an infectious laugh that could light up even the dullest of rooms. Yet, beneath her cheerful exterior lay a dreamer with aspirations that reached far beyond the confines of her current life. In the days leading up to her untimely death, Lana was brimming with excitement over her plans to expand her design business. She had recently been in talks with potential clients in Toronto, hoping to tap into the city's thriving art scene, which was abuzz with the upcoming Toronto International Film Festival's announcement of its 2009 winners. Social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, which were hitting their stride in popularity, were abuzz with her latest designs. Her journey to Toronto was not just a business trip. It was a step towards realizing her dream of becoming an internationally recognized designer. Little did she know, the city that symbolized her future aspirations would become the setting of a tragic end to a life full of promise. On December 1, 2009, as the early winter dusk cloaked the city of Toronto in shades of gray, an ominous chill settled over the bustling streets. The Canadian city, usually alive with the sound of holiday shoppers and the sight of festive decorations, was unaware of the grim discovery that would soon disrupt the seasonal cheer. At approximately 7:45 p.m., the Swiss Chalet restaurant, a Canadian staple known for its rotisserie chicken and comfort food, became a crime scene. Nestled on a busy street corner, the establishment was filled with diners seeking refuge from the biting cold that evening. Among them was Janet Wolinski, a local librarian with a penchant for mystery novels, who had stopped by for a quick meal after a long day at the Toronto Public Library. Little did she know that she would stumble upon a real-life horror that no book could prepare her for. Upon entering the ladies' room, Janet was met with a sight that would haunt her for years to come. Lana Tomkins, a visitor from Michigan, lay lifeless on the cold-tiled floor. The victim was dressed for the winter weather, her scarf and coat a stark contrast to the stillness of her form. A luxury belt, an item far removed from the affordable indulgences typically sold in the nearby Eaton Center's holiday market, was wrapped tightly around her neck. Janet's initial shock quickly turned to action as she suppressed her panic and alerted the restaurant manager, who in turn called 911. The dispatcher, trained for emergencies, guided them through the necessary steps while ensuring that the police were promptly en route. Despite the flurry of activity, Janet remained composed, a testament to her strength even in the face of adversity. As the snowflakes of the season began to fall, casting a serene blanket over the city, the warmth inside the Swiss Chalet was irreversibly tainted by the cold reality of a life extinguished too soon. The Toronto Police Service received the distress call from the Swiss Chalet restaurant at 7:52 p.m. on that frigid December evening. Within minutes, the scene was swarming with the flashing lights of emergency vehicles, cutting through the darkness as they arrived with urgency. The first responders were met with a scene that juxtaposed the festive atmosphere typical of the season. A young woman's body lay in the solitude of the restaurant's bathroom, a place where the jovial chatter of diners was replaced by a deafening silence. Detectives James Keller and Sandra Lee, both veterans of the Homicide Squad, led the investigation. Keller, with his gruff demeanor and a reputation for his dogged pursuit of justice, was well known in the corridors of the 52 Division. His partner, Lee, brought a methodical and detail-oriented approach to the case, her skills honed by years on the force and a keen understanding of the city's diverse communities. The crime scene was meticulously preserved, with the area cordoned off to prevent contamination. Forensic teams donned protective suits as they entered the scene, a procedure that had become almost routine in a city that had seen its share of violent crimes. The air was thick with the scent of disinfectant, a stark contrast to the heavy aroma of gravy and fries that wafted from the kitchen. Lana Tomkins' body showed no immediate signs of a struggle, suggesting she may have known her assailant or been taken by surprise. The murder weapon, a belt from a luxury department store, hinted at a personal attack. Such items were not commonly found in the possession of the average Torontonian. As the forensic team collected evidence, they employed the latest in crime scene technology, including alternate light source imaging and 3D crime scene reconstruction, tools that were just coming into their own at the end of the decade. The meticulous collection of fingerprints and DNA samples was a race against time, with the knowledge that each passing moment could lead the killer further from their grasp. The crime had been committed with a chilling precision that left the seasoned detectives unsettled. As the night wore on, the realization that this case would not be a simple one was dawning on everyone involved. The city of Toronto, normally abuzz with excitement over the upcoming Winter City Festival, was now overshadowed by the specter of a murderer in its midst. As the investigation unfolded, attention turned to Laird Chevalier, a 23-year-old janitor employed at the Swiss Chalet restaurant where Lana Tomkins' body was found. Chevalier, originally from Sherbrooke, Quebec, had moved to Toronto in search of better prospects and was known among his colleagues for his quiet demeanor and punctuality. The young janitor lived a modest life in a small apartment cluttered with architectural blueprints and design magazines, remnants of his abandoned dream to become an architect. A dream thwarted by financial constraints in the global economic downturn of 2008. His social media profiles, sparse and infrequently updated, offered no insights into his personal life, presenting a challenge for the detectives trying to piece together his background. During the interrogation, held in the sterile confines of an interview room at the police station, Chevalier maintained a calm exterior. The detectives, skilled in the art of questioning, probed for inconsistencies in his account of the evening in question. He claimed to have been restocking supplies at the time of the murder, a routine task that left him largely unaccounted for during the critical window. His alibi was met with skepticism. The investigators, aware of the pressures faced by service workers in the city, often highlighted in exposés by the Toronto Star, considered the possibility of a crime of opportunity. However, without a clear motive or evidence linking him to the crime, their suspicions remained unconfirmed. Throughout the questioning, Chevalier cooperated fully, his responses measured and devoid of the defensiveness typical of a guilty conscience. His hands, though roughened by manual labor, showed no signs of involvement in a violent act. The detectives were left to ponder whether his calmness was a facade or a genuine indication of innocence. As the interrogation concluded, the police were no closer to proving Chevalier's involvement in the murder. The investigation would have to delve deeper into the lives of Lana Tomkins and the other individuals connected to the case to uncover the truth behind the tragedy. Nearly 4 days after the tragic discovery of Lana Tomkins, the city of Toronto was shaken once again. On December 5, 2009, Robin Kwan, an 18-year-old high school student, was found dead in the bathroom of a Canadian Tire store on Yonge Street, a bustling retail hub especially crowded during the holiday season. Like Lana, Robin was strangled with a belt that seemed out of place amidst the rows of automotive parts and home essentials, a belt that, upon further investigation, was traced to the same luxury department store chain. Robin, a recent immigrant from Hong Kong, had moved to Canada with her parents in hopes of a better future. She was described by her classmates at Jarvis Collegiate Institute as a bright and ambitious student, her dreams of studying medicine at the University of Toronto driving her to excel academically. Her part-time job at Canadian Tire was a step towards independence and financial support for her education. The investigation led to an interrogation of her coworkers, one of whom was present on the evening of her death. The store manager, a middle-aged man named Douglas Peters, was visibly distraught as he recounted the events of the night. He described Robin as a diligent and reliable employee, her customer service always accompanied by a friendly smile. Social media platforms like Facebook, then at the height of their emerging influence, became a valuable tool in the investigation. Detectives scoured Robin's online interactions for any sign of conflict or distress, but found nothing beyond the usual teenage discourse and aspirations. The police, determined to find a connection between the two murders, questioned Robin's friends and family with sensitivity, understanding the cultural nuances of her community. Her parents, overwhelmed by grief, struggled to comprehend the senseless loss of their daughter, their dreams shattered in an instant. Despite the meticulous interrogation of those within Robin's immediate circle, the police found no clear motive or suspect. The killer remained at large, his or her identity shrouded in mystery, leaving the city's residents in a state of heightened anxiety and fear. The investigation took a pivotal turn on the morning of December 7, 2009. A gray overcast sky loomed over Toronto, a reflection of the somber mood that had enveloped the city since the string of unsettling murders. The crisp winter air was heavy with anticipation as the Toronto Police Service worked tirelessly to connect the dots between the two cases. A breakthrough came when a lost prevention officer from Holt Renfrew, an upscale department store renowned for its curated selection of luxury goods, contacted the authorities. The officer had been reviewing security footage as part of the store's routine protocols heightened during the holiday shopping frenzy. Amidst the footage, a figure caught their attention, a young man purchasing several high-end belts, the same type used in the murders. The surveillance video timestamp coincided with the days leading up to the first murder. The young man's face was clear, his demeanor calm as he made the transactions. The footage was promptly handed over to the police, who disseminated stills to local media outlets, including CP24 and the Globe and Mail, in a bid to solicit the public's help in identifying the individual. The response was swift. Tips flooded in, and the public's vigilance was palpable. Social media buzzed with activity as the images circulated on Twitter and Facebook, where concerned citizens shared information and expressed their unease about the brazen nature of the crimes. Detectives Keller and Lee analyzed the footage, noting the suspect's confidence and the ease with which he navigated the upscale environment. The belts, an accessory to fashion for most, had become an instrument of death in his hands. As the day progressed, the weather took a turn and light snow began to fall, blanketing the city in a deceptive calm. But the police were far from tranquil, as this new evidence presented a tangible lead. The race was on to identify the young man before he could strike again, and with the city on edge, the pressure was mounting to bring the perpetrator to justice. The investigation's urgency intensified on December 9, 2009, as another life was claimed under chillingly similar circumstances. Yaira Dominguez, a 21-year-old single mother and recent immigrant from Holguin, Cuba, was found in the staff bathroom of an A&W restaurant, her life extinguished by the same method, a luxury belt, now a grim signature of the killer. Yaira, who had sought a new beginning in Canada for herself and her young daughter, worked tirelessly at the counter, serving customers with a hopeful smile. Her aspirations to enroll in a nursing program at Ryerson University were fueled by a determination to provide a better life for her child. The A&W on Queen Street, often bustling with locals and tourists alike, was a stark contrast to the quiet tragedy that unfolded within its walls. The police, now grappling with a serial killer, focused their investigation on the individual captured in the Holt Renfrew security footage. The manhunt led them to James Deacon Price, a 17-year-old high school student from one of Canada's most prestigious private schools. Deacon Price, the only child of a prominent Bay Street financier and a socialite known for her philanthropic endeavors, lived a life of privilege that was well documented in the society pages of the Toronto Star. During his interrogation, Deacon Price's demeanor was unsettling. He was neither overtly nervous nor particularly cooperative, responding to the detective's questions with a nonchalance that belied the gravity of the situation. His digital footprint revealed a trail of arrogance, with social media posts that showcased a lavish lifestyle and a sense of entitlement that was out of touch with the economic reality faced by many Torontonians post-recession. The police probed for a motive, delving into Deacon Price's past and his relationships. His peers described him as aloof and often dismissive of those he deemed beneath him. Yet, there was no clear reason why he would target victims like Lana, Robin, and Yaira, women who were strangers to him, each battling their own struggles and chasing their dreams in a city that promised opportunity. As the interrogation continued, the detectives were left to ponder whether Deacon Price's actions were the result of a deeply rooted pathology or a perverse desire to exert control over the vulnerable. The answers, however, remained just out of reach, leaving the investigators to piece together the puzzle of a young man's descent into darkness. Amidst the backdrop of a snow-dusted Toronto, a narrative of privilege and malice began to unfold. By mid-December 2009, the city, usually preoccupied with the festive spirit and the recent Grey Cup victory of the Montreal Alouettes, found its attention riveted on a series of brutal murders. The common thread, a luxury belt used as a garrote, led investigators to James Deacon Price, a 17-year-old student from a prestigious private school. Deacon Price, the progeny of wealth and status, stood in stark contrast to his victims, women striving for betterment amidst the economic aftershocks that continued to reverberate from the 2008 financial crisis. His life, documented in the society pages and on nascent social media platforms, was punctuated by galas and exclusive events, a stark departure from the everyday struggles of Lana Tomkins, Robin Kwan, and Yaira Dominguez. The investigation revealed a chilling portrait of the young man. Despite his seemingly idyllic upbringing, Deacon Price harbored a morbid curiosity. His internet history, scrutinized by cybercrime specialists, unveiled a fascination with the macabre and the mechanics of death, a digital trail that added a layer of complexity to the case. In a coldly calculated manner, Deacon Price had sought out his victims, each selected with a predator's precision. The belts, purchased from high-end retail stores like Holt Renfrew, were not just tools but trophies, selected to satisfy a twisted desire for power and control. It was a desire he confessed to during interrogation, stating with chilling detachment that he wanted to know what it felt like to end a life. The motive, as articulated by Deacon Price, was as banal as it was horrifying: a quest for sensation, an experiment in mortality devoid of any personal vendetta against the victims. He believed his affluent background made him untouchable, a belief that would soon be disproven by the weight of evidence against him. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, the detectives faced the daunting task of proving Deacon Price's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The city watched, its collective breath held, as the wheels of justice began to turn against a young man who had stepped far beyond the bounds of society's norms. The morning of December 11, 2009, dawned with a brittle clarity over Toronto, the city's iconic CN Tower piercing the sky of unbroken blue. The metropolitan area was still reeling from the revelations surrounding the high-profile case that had dominated headlines in the Globe and Mail and the incessant chatter on talk radio stations like CFOB. The Toronto Police Service, armed with incontrovertible evidence and a confession, prepared to make an arrest that would resonate through the corridors of power in the city. In the affluent neighborhood where James Deacon Price resided, opulent homes were adorned with tasteful Christmas decorations, a stark contrast to the somber task at hand. The young suspect, heir to a family legacy of wealth and influence, was apprehended at his family's stately residence, a place that had been featured in the glossy pages of Toronto Life magazine. The arrest was executed with precision, the culmination of countless hours of investigation by a task force determined to see justice served. Detectives Keller and Lee, accompanied by uniformed officers, approached the Deacon Price home as the first light of day reflected off the freshly fallen snow. The suspect, confronted with the reality of his situation, displayed a flicker of surprise before his expression settled into one of resigned acceptance. The reaction of Deacon Price, who had so cavalierly confessed to his heinous acts, was one of detached acknowledgement, a far cry from the arrogance he had exhibited in his online persona and in the interrogation room. As he was led away in handcuffs, the gravity of his fate seemed to settle upon him, a stark departure from the invulnerability he had once assumed. Meanwhile, the families of the victims, who had been notified of the impending arrest, experienced a tumult of emotions. Relief mingled with sorrow, the reality that nothing could bring back their loved ones setting in. The arrest, while a closure of sorts, was also a reminder of the gaping wounds left by the loss of Lana, Robin, and Yaira. As the news of the arrest spread, the city of Toronto breathed a collective sigh of relief. The imminent threat was contained, but the scars left by the actions of James Deacon Price would linger in the city's collective memory for years to come. The trial of James Deacon Price commenced in the spring following a winter that had seen Toronto gripped by the chilling narrative. The old City Hall Courthouse, a Romanesque revival building that had stood as a symbol of justice since the late 1800s, was the stage for a legal battle that would capture the attention of the nation. The media, from CBC News to the smaller local outlets, were assembled, their cameras and microphones poised to document every development. The prosecution was led by Elizabeth Chester, a formidable figure with a reputation for her incisive courtroom tactics. At 45, Chester was a seasoned prosecutor, her career defined by a string of successful convictions. She approached the case with a steely determination, framing Deacon Price as a predator who had exploited his social status to carry out his crimes with a chilling sense of entitlement. The defense was in the hands of Jonathan Hale, a defense attorney known for his eloquent arguments and charismatic presence in the courtroom. Hale, at 50, had made a name for himself representing some of the city's most challenging cases. He contended that Deacon Price, despite his confession, was a product of a society that glorified wealth and neglected the mental health of its youth. Throughout the proceedings, the courtroom was heavy with emotion. The victims' families, present at each day of the trial, sat with a dignified composure that occasionally gave way to tears as the details of their loved ones' final moments were laid bare. The public gallery, often filled to capacity, listened with rapt attention as witnesses recounted the events leading up to the fateful discoveries in December 2009. As the trial progressed, the city followed the unfolding drama, the case becoming a topic of heated discussion on platforms like Twitter, where the hashtag Deacon Price trial trended for weeks. The trial not only questioned the morality of the accused, but also held up a mirror to the societal divisions and disparities that had allowed such a tragedy to occur. The courtroom was hushed as the trial of James Deacon Price reached its climax. After weeks of intense deliberations and testimonies that had been scrutinized by legal experts and armchair analysts alike on forums and in the comment sections of the Toronto Sun, the moment of reckoning had arrived. The city, still under the shadow of the atrocities, awaited justice for Lana, Robin, and Yaira. Elizabeth Chester, her arguments grounded in the stark reality of the evidence, had painted a portrait of a remorseless killer in Deacon Price. The defense, led by Jonathan Hale, had sought to humanize the accused, emphasizing his youth and the psychological complexities that may have led to his actions. The jury, faced with the weight of their civic duty, retreated to consider the fate of the young man whose privileged life had taken such a dark turn. The verdict was delivered on a day that saw the streets of Toronto bustling with the usual cadence of city life, the conversations of passers-by punctuated by the latest hits playing from the storefronts of HMV and Virgin Megastore. Guilty on all counts, the words echoed through the courtroom, a solemn affirmation of the justice system's resolve. Sentencing followed, the judge imposing a life sentence without the possibility of parole for 25 years. The punishment, while severe, sparked debate across the city's diverse neighborhoods and in the opinion columns of the Globe and Mail. Some argued that the sentence was too lenient for the gravity of the crimes, while others pondered the effectiveness of retribution over rehabilitation. For the victims' families, the sentencing brought a measure of closure, though the verdict could not fill the void left by their loss. Their reactions were a blend of relief and sorrow, a complex tapestry of emotions that reflected the irrevocable impact of the crimes. The verdict's ripple effects extended beyond the courtroom, igniting conversations about the societal implications of the case and the nature of justice. As the city moved forward, the legacy of the trial remained, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the profound consequences of one individual's actions. The conclusion of the trial marked a new chapter for the city of Toronto. As the winter of 2009 became a memory and the cityscape bloomed with the arrival of spring, the community sought to rebuild and find a sense of normalcy after the harrowing events that had unfolded. The bustling streets, once the backdrop for a narrative of horror, slowly returned to their former rhythm, the vibrant pulse of Canada's largest city undiminished. The families of Lana Tomkins, Robin Kwan, and Yaira Dominguez faced the daunting task of moving forward without their loved ones. Their grief was a private affair, each finding solace in different ways, some through advocacy and speaking out against violence, others in the quiet remembrance of the lives so cruelly taken. The pain of loss was a constant companion, but so too was the strength they found in their communities and in each other. Detectives Keller and Lee, the faces of the investigation, received commendations for their work. Yet the accolades did little to erase the images and testimonies that would linger in their minds long after the case was closed. They continued their service, their resolve strengthened by the knowledge that their efforts had brought a measure of justice to the bereaved. As for James Deacon Price, his conviction and subsequent incarceration became the subject of continued media interest. True crime podcasts and television specials analyzed every facet of the case, from his privileged upbringing to the psychological profile that emerged during the trial. In prison, Deacon Price became another inmate, his notoriety a stark departure from the life of luxury he had once known. The broader community grappled with the implications of the case, discussions about mental health, societal privilege, and the criminal justice system taking center stage in university lectures and coffee shop debates. The murders had left an indelible mark on the city's consciousness, prompting reflection on the vulnerabilities and inequalities that existed within the urban tapestry. As years passed, the case of the James Deacon Price remained a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that can lie beneath a facade of normalcy and the enduring quest for justice in the face of senseless violence. The case of the Nepo baby serial killer serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind a facade of privilege. It's a story that shook Toronto and one that true crime case files will never forget. Samantha Hong, a 28-year-old personal assistant, lived a life that seemed straight out of a glossy magazine. Residing in the affluent town of Walnut Creek, Samantha was renowned for her opulent lifestyle, adorned in the finest designer clothing and indulging in a world of luxury. Her presence was a constant spectacle, capturing the attention of those who craved a glimpse into her seemingly perfect existence. Behind the facade of confidence, however, Samantha battled deep-rooted insecurities and an insatiable craving for validation. Her relentless pursuit of attention fueled her personal and professional life, propelling her towards success while leaving a trail of envious acquaintances in her wake. Samantha's life was a captivating blend of glamour and ambition. She frequented trendy restaurants, mingling with influential figures in the fashion and entertainment industry. Her social circle boasted celebrities, socialites, and power players, all eager to bask in the radiance of her charismatic persona. As we dig deeper into Samantha's life, we uncover the intricate web of relationships that surrounded her. Rumors of a love triangle emerge, pitting Samantha against two individuals vying for her affections. The tension and jealousy that simmered beneath the surface would ultimately lead to a devastating outcome. On the chilling evening of November 17, 2002, tragedy struck the quiet town of Walnut Creek, California, as the lifeless body of Samantha Hong, a 28-year-old personal assistant, was discovered under mysterious circumstances. The rain poured relentlessly, adding to the somber atmosphere that engulfed the crime scene. It was around 7:30 p.m. when Patty Snarlbrook, a 91-year-old passerby, unintentionally stumbled upon the horrifying sight that would forever haunt her. As Patty made her way home, her frail frame braving the elements, she noticed a peculiar disturbance near a dimly lit park. Curiosity piqued, she approached cautiously, her heart pounding with a mix of trepidation and curiosity. As Patty drew closer, her eyes widened in shock and disbelief. There, lying on the cold, wet pavement, was the lifeless form of Samantha Hong. The scene was reminiscent of a noir film, with the raindrops falling like tears from the sky, mirroring the sorrow felt by those who would soon learn of Samantha's tragic fate. Patty, a woman of advanced age but sharp intellect, immediately recognized the severity of the situation. Panic set in as she fumbled for her cell phone, dialing 911 with trembling hands. Her voice quivered as she relayed the grim discovery to the emergency operator, her words punctuated by the sound of raindrops hitting the pavement. Within minutes, the sound of sirens pierced the air, signaling the arrival of the authorities. The scene quickly transformed into a hive of activity as police officers and forensic experts descended upon the crime scene. Yellow crime scene tape was stretched across the alleyway, marking it as a place of tragedy and intrigue. As investigators meticulously combed through the evidence, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. The murder of Samantha Hong had become a captivating mystery that captivated the Bay Area, leaving no one untouched by its chilling implications. The police wasted no time in responding to the report of Samantha Hong's lifeless body. Detectives Julian Laughlin and Carolina Ramirez arrived at the scene, their faces grim with determination. The rain poured down relentlessly, adding to the somber atmosphere that hung over the crime scene. The location where Samantha's body was discovered was a secluded spot in a Walnut Creek park. The park, usually a place of tranquility and leisure, had now become the center of a macabre investigation. Yellow police tape cordoned off the area, preventing curious onlookers from getting too close. As the detectives approached the crime scene, they could see the unmistakable stain of blood on the ground. It was a chilling sight, a stark contrast against the wet grass and fallen leaves. The rain had washed away some of the evidence, but there were still enough clues for the investigators to work with. The first step was to secure the area and ensure that no evidence was disturbed. Detective Laughlin carefully placed markers next to each significant item, meticulously documenting their position. He then directed the crime scene technicians to begin their work. The forensic team, dressed in white protective suits, started their search for clues. They meticulously combed through the area, collecting samples of the soil, leaves, and any other potential evidence. Every step was taken with utmost care, as even the smallest detail could prove crucial in solving the case. Detective Ramirez focused her attention on Samantha's personal belongings. She carefully examined the victim's handbag, searching for any items that may provide insight into her life and potential motives for her murder. Among the contents, she found a receipt from a local jewelry store, indicating that Samantha had recently purchased an expensive necklace. Could this purchase be connected to her untimely demise? Meanwhile, Detective Laughlin interviewed witnesses who frequented the park. He spoke to joggers, dog walkers, and anyone who might have seen something out of the ordinary on that fateful day. One witness mentioned seeing a suspicious-looking man lurking near the crime scene, but his description was vague, leaving the detectives with more questions than answers. As the investigation progressed, the detectives faced the challenge of piecing together the puzzle of Samantha's murder. With each passing day, the pressure mounted to solve the case and bring justice to Samantha and her grieving loved ones. Dan Tearsbeek, a 32-year-old business executive, found himself at the center of a storm of suspicion surrounding the tragic murder of Samantha Hong. Known for his charm and influential connections, Dan was no stranger to the glitz and glamour of the high-flying lifestyle that Samantha reveled in. However, beneath his polished exterior, a web of secrets and guilt threatened to unravel. As the investigation unfolded, the police focused their attention on Dan, meticulously dissecting his every move and motive. The media frenzy surrounding the case only intensified the scrutiny on him. Reporters camped outside his upscale apartment building, eager to capture any glimpse of the man who was entangled in this deadly love triangle. In the interrogation room, Dan's carefully crafted facade began to crack. Under the relentless questioning of Detective Laughlin, beads of sweat formed on Dan's forehead, betraying his inner turmoil. The detective pressed him on the nature of his relationship with Samantha, the extent of their involvement, and any potential motive for her murder. Dan's voice trembled as he denied any wrongdoing, insisting that he had nothing to do with Samantha's untimely demise. He recounted their passionate affair, painting a picture of a torrid love affair that had consumed them both. He spoke of the nights spent at exclusive restaurants, the lavish gifts he showered upon her, and the trips they took to Hawaii and Las Vegas. But the detectives were not easily swayed by Dan's words. They delved deep into his financial records, uncovering a series of suspicious transactions that raised eyebrows. Large sums of money had been transferred from his accounts in the weeks leading up to Samantha's murder. The police wondered if these funds were used to hire a hitman or to cover up any evidence of his involvement. But amidst the media frenzy, justice remained the ultimate goal. The detectives meticulously gathered evidence, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. They were determined to unveil the dark secrets that lay hidden beneath the glossy surface of Samantha's glamorous life. In the investigation into the tragic murder of Samantha Hong, another suspect emerged, Emily Tearsbeek, the 34-year-old wife of Dan Tearsbeek. Emily seemed to embody the picture-perfect suburban wife, with her neatly manicured lawn, charming smile, and her beloved chihuahua, Carl J. Wertheimer. However, beneath her demure facade, a seething rage towards Samantha lurked. Emily saw Samantha as a threat to her marriage, a woman who had captivated her husband's attention and shattered the tranquility of their once harmonious life. Consumed by jealousy, Emily meticulously devised a plan to eliminate her romantic rival, leaving no stone unturned in her quest for vengeance. The police, led by detectives Julian Laughlin and Carolina Ramirez, delved into Emily's background, seeking to uncover the truth behind her seemingly innocent exterior. They discovered a woman who had meticulously crafted a facade of suburban bliss, but harbored a deep-seated resentment towards Samantha. As the investigators delved deeper, they discovered a trove of evidence that pointed towards Emily's involvement in Samantha's murder. They found a series of incriminating text messages exchanged between Emily and a mysterious contact known only as R. These messages revealed a sinister plot to poison Samantha with a lethal dose of arsenic, cunningly laced in her favorite champagne. The journal contained chilling entries, describing in meticulous detail the steps Emily had taken to ensure Samantha's demise. During the police interrogation, Emily's demeanor oscillated between calm denials and moments of intense anger. She vehemently denied any involvement in Samantha's death, claiming the texts and the journal entries were a private fantasy meant to relieve her anger. But her carefully constructed facade began to crumble under the intense interrogation against her. As the investigation continued, the detectives meticulously pieced together the puzzle, connecting the dots between Emily's motive, her actions, and the tragic outcome. The police published a preliminary investigation report, written at a fourth-grade vocabulary level of the insured that even the youngest readers could understand the gravity of the situation. As the investigation into Samantha Hong's murder continued, a surprising suspect emerged from the shadows. Tiffany Watson, a 25-year-old receptionist and co-worker of Samantha. Tiffany's resentment towards Samantha's success and glamorous lifestyle had been simmering beneath the surface for months, and now the police had reason to believe that her envy had driven her to commit a heinous crime. Tiffany, with her long brown hair and piercing blue eyes, seemed like an unlikely suspect. She often wore a fake smile and spoke in a soft, innocent voice that could easily deceive those around her. But the detectives saw through her facade and were determined to uncover the truth. During the police interrogation, Tiffany's demeanor shifted between feigned innocence and veiled hostility. She tried to downplay her rivalry with Samantha, claiming that they were just co-workers and that she had no reason to harm her. But the evidence told a different story. The detectives discovered that Tiffany had been secretly stalking Samantha for months. She had meticulously collected newspaper clippings and magazine articles featuring Samantha's success, pinning them to a corkboard in her small apartment. The board was covered in red string, connecting the articles in a web of envy and obsession. Furthermore, the detectives found a diary hidden under Tiffany's mattress. Its pages were filled with delirious, sexually explicit and disturbing entries detailing Tiffany's growing hatred and sexual attraction towards Samantha. She wrote about how Samantha's designer clothes and luxurious lifestyle made her feel inferior and how she would do anything to bring Samantha down. The detectives also uncovered a receipt from a local pharmacy dated November 10, 2002. The receipt showed that Tiffany had purchased a bottle of arsenic, the same deadly poison that had ended Samantha's life. The detectives also found traces of arsenic in Tiffany's apartment, linking her directly to the murder. As the evidence mounted against her, Tiffany's composed demeanor began to crumble. She became more agitated, her voice trembling as she continued to deny any involvement in Samantha's death. She claimed she had bought the bottle of arsenic to kill herself. The investigation into Samantha Hong's murder had taken a dark turn, revealing how love, envy, and betrayal that can exist together within the human heart. The detectives' relentless pursuit of justice had brought them closer to the truth, but there were still unanswered questions. What other secrets lay hidden beneath the surface? After an intense and painstaking investigation, the truth behind Samantha Hong's untimely demise finally was unveiled. The culprit responsible for this heinous crime was none other than Emily Tearsbeek, the wife of Samantha's wealthy lover, Daniel Dan Tearsbeek. Emily, a seemingly ordinary 34-year-old woman, harbored a deep-seated resentment towards Samantha. She perceived Samantha as a threat to her marriage and meticulously devised a plan to eliminate her romantic rival. Consumed by a toxic mix of jealousy and betrayal, Emily cunningly poisoned Samantha with a lethal dose of arsenic, cleverly laced in her favorite champagne. The police, led by detectives Julian Laughlin and Carolina Ramirez, left no stone unturned in their quest for justice. Their relentless pursuit of the truth led them to uncover crucial evidence that ultimately pointed to Emily as the mastermind behind this chilling murder. As the investigation intensified, the detectives interrogated Emily, unmasking her manipulative nature and her willingness to go to extreme lengths to eliminate her competition. Emily's responses ranged from calm denials to moments of intense anger, painting a complex portrait of a woman driven by envy and consumed by her own dark desires. The arrest of Emily Tearsbeek sent shockwaves through the wealthy community of Walnut Creek, California, leaving friends and neighbors stunned by the revelation that a seemingly ordinary woman could be capable of such a heinous act. Samantha's family, though devastated by their loss, found solace in the fact that justice had been served. As the trial of Emily Tearsbeek looms on the horizon, the community eagerly awaits the day when she will face the consequences of her actions. In the end, Samantha's vibrant spirit lives on, a reminder of the tragic consequences that can arise from the darkest corners of the human psyche. The legacy of this case will forever serve as a cautionary tale, reminding us all of the importance of trust, loyalty, and the devastating consequences that can arise when these values are forsaken. The trial that ensued after Samantha Hong's tragic murder in November 2002 captivated the area, with media outlets like KGO and CanTV closely following the proceedings. Emily Tearsbeek, the mastermind behind the twisted plot to eliminate her husband's mistress, stood at the center of the courtroom, her fate hanging in the balance. In a packed courtroom, the prosecution presented a meticulously crafted case against Emily, led by the formidable prosecutor Tabitha Quasimodo. Quasimodo, known for her tenacity and unwavering dedication to justice, left no stone unturned in her pursuit of the truth. She skillfully weaved together witness testimonies, forensic evidence, and a compelling narrative that painted Emily as a calculating and cold-blooded murderer. The defense attorney, Michael Laraboots, fought tirelessly to protect his client's interests. Laraboots, renowned for his ability to sway juries with his persuasive arguments, employed every legal tactic in his arsenal to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. He called into question the reliability of the evidence, challenged the credibility of witnesses, and attempted to create a narrative that placed the blame elsewhere. Samantha's family, clad in somber attire, sat in the front row, their eyes fixed on the proceedings. The weight of their loss was palpable, and their hope for justice was intertwined with a sense of grief that seemed insurmountable. The courtroom itself buzzed with tension, as the public and media awaited the verdict that would determine Emily's fate. After weeks of gripping testimony and impassioned arguments, the jury retired to deliberate. Their decision would shape the lives of both the victims and the perpetrators' families, and the nation held its breath in anticipation. Finally, the verdict was delivered. Emily Tearsbeek was found guilty on all charges. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the courtroom as the gravity of the decision sunk in. Samantha's family, though relieved that justice was served, struggled to find solace in the knowledge that their beloved daughter and sister could never be brought back. The sentencing phase of the trial commenced, and emotions ran high. The prosecution argued for a sentence that reflected the heinous nature of the crime, citing the pain and suffering inflicted upon Samantha and her loved ones. The defense, on the other hand, pleaded for leniency, highlighting Emily's lack of prior criminal history and her potential for rehabilitation. Ultimately, the judge, Honorable William Galville Gavelson, delivered the sentence. Emily Tearsbeek was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief, anger, and sadness. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the lives of all those involved, leaving a lasting scar that would never fully heal. As the trial concluded, the media frenzy surrounding the case gradually subsided, but the memory of Samantha Hong and the chilling tale of betrayal, jealousy, and revenge would forever remain etched in the annals of crime history. In the aftermath of the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved in the Samantha Hong murder case took unexpected turns. For Daniel Dan Tearsbeek, the wealthy businessman who had been entangled in a deadly love triangle, life would never be the same. The trial had exposed his infidelity and shattered his marriage to Emily Tearsbeek. Dan, now a recluse, was rarely seen in public, preferring to spend his days in his secluded mansion overlooking the picturesque hills of Walnut Creek. His once thriving business empire had crumbled under the weight of scandal, leaving him a shadow of his former self. Meanwhile, Emily Thompson, the mastermind behind the twisted plot, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her days were now spent behind cold steel bars, contemplating the consequences of her actions. The monotony of prison life was a stark contrast to the glamorous world she had once inhabited. The media circus that had surrounded the trial had moved on to other sensational stories, leaving Emily to face the harsh reality of her choices alone. As for Samantha's family, the wounds of her untimely death were still fresh. They had found solace in each other's company and the support of their close-knit community. The Samantha Hong Foundation, established in her memory, had become a beacon of hope for victims of domestic violence. Through their tireless efforts, the foundation provided resources and support to those in need, ensuring that Samantha's legacy lived on. The police officers who had tirelessly worked on the case, Detectives Julian Laughlin and Carolina Ramirez, were commended for their dedication and professionalism. Their meticulous investigation had brought justice to Samantha and closure to her grieving family. Their names would forever be etched in the annals of crime history, remembered as the heroes who had unraveled the truth behind the chilling murder. As the years passed, the Samantha Hong murder case faded from the headlines, becoming a distant memory for most. The once bustling streets of Walnut Creek returned to their peaceful existence, with residents going about their daily lives. The scars left by the tragic events of November 2002 would always remain, a reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk within the human heart. Mike Muir was a 42-year-old man who lived in Riverside, California, a city known for its hot summers and beautiful orange groves. Mike was well known in his community. He was charismatic and outgoing, making friends easily wherever he went. Mike worked as a project manager at a local construction company and was respected by his colleagues for his dedication and hard work. He lived with his wife, Jackie, and their 10-year-old son, Bender. Mike was a loving father who always made time for his family. He enjoyed playing catch with Bender in their backyard and took him to soccer practice every weekend. Mike's wife, Jackie, ran a small home-based business, selling handmade crafts on Etsy. Mike loved golfing and often played at the Riverside Golf Club. He was also an avid TV watcher, with a particular love for classic sitcoms like Friends and Seinfeld. On weekends, you could find Mike participating in local charity events, often organizing fundraisers for causes like the American Cancer Society. In July 2018, Riverside was experiencing record heat. Despite the sweltering temperatures, Mike was in high spirits. He was excited about an upcoming business deal that promised to be a significant milestone in his career. He spent hours preparing presentations and meetings, hoping to secure a big contract for his company. Mike was also busy planning a family vacation to London. He had booked tickets for a tour of Buckingham Palace and a visit to the Harry Potter studio tour, knowing how much Bender loved the books and movies. The family had already started packing and discussing the places they wanted to visit. Mike looked forward to seeing the historic sights and spending quality time with his loved ones. Friends described Mike as kind-hearted and generous. He often helped neighbors with home repairs and volunteered at the local food bank. His friendly nature made him a beloved figure in the community. Mike dreamed of one day starting his own construction company and expanding his charitable work. He hoped to provide a better future for his family and make a lasting impact on his community. In the days leading up to his death, Mike's life seemed perfect. He had a loving family, a promising career, and exciting plans for the future. No one could have imagined the tragedy that was about to unfold. On the morning of July 12, 2018, at around 9 a.m., Tom Rogers, a close friend and neighbor of Mike Muir, made a shocking discovery. Tom had stopped by Mike's house for their regular morning coffee. It was something they did every Thursday before heading to work. Tom noticed that Mike hadn't responded to his usual text message that morning, which was unusual but not alarming. Tom walked up the driveway and knocked on the front door. When there was no answer, he tried the doorbell, but still, there was no response. Concerned, Tom decided to check if the back door was unlocked. As he walked around the house, he called out Mike's name but received no reply. When he reached the back door, he found it slightly ajar. Tom stepped inside and immediately sensed something was wrong. The house was eerily quiet. As he moved through the living room, he saw signs of a struggle, overturned furniture, and a broken vase on the floor. His heart began to race as he made his way towards the master bedroom. Upon entering the room, Tom was met with a horrifying sight. Mike Muir was lying on the floor, unresponsive, with severe bruises and injuries all over his body. He had been whipped to death with what appeared to be a woman's belt. The scene was gruesome, with clear signs of a violent altercation. Tom's hands shook as he dialed 911. The operator tried to keep him calm as he described what he had found. Tom's voice was shaky and filled with disbelief. He had never seen anything so violent and tragic. He stayed on the line, waiting for the police to arrive, unable to comprehend what had happened to his friend. Within minutes, sirens could be heard approaching. The police and paramedics arrived quickly. They found Tom standing outside, visibly shaken and in a state of shock. She guided him to a nearby bench and asked him to describe what he had seen. As Tom recounted the events, he struggled to hold back tears. He had known Mike for years, and the thought of his friend being brutally murdered was too much to bear. The paramedics confirmed that Mike was dead, and the police began securing the crime scene. The news of Mike's death spread quickly through the neighborhood. Friends and neighbors gathered outside, whispering in disbelief and mourning the loss of a beloved community member. The tragic discovery marked the beginning of a complex investigation into a case that would shock everyone who knew Mike Muir. When the police arrived at the Muir residence on July 12, 2018, they were quick and efficient. Detective Laura Martinez and her partner, Detective James Carter, led the investigation. Both were experienced officers known for their thoroughness and attention to detail. Detective Martinez, a methodical and calm investigator, quickly took charge, while Detective Carter, known for his sharp instincts, began assessing the scene. The crime scene was chaotic. The living room had overturned furniture, a broken vase, and other signs of a struggle. In the master bedroom, where Mike Muir's body was found, the scene was even more disturbing. Mike lay on the floor, his body covered in bruises and lash marks. He had been whipped to death with a woman's belt, which was found nearby. Blood was splattered on the walls and floor, indicating a violent and desperate struggle. Detective Martinez immediately began directing the team. She ordered the area to be cordoned off and assigned officers to interview neighbors and potential witnesses. Detective Carter focused on collecting evidence. He carefully bagged the belt and took samples of blood and hair from the scene. They also found several broken objects, suggesting a fierce altercation had taken place. The detectives called in a forensic team to assist with the investigation. The team used advanced tools to gather fingerprints, DNA samples, and other vital clues. They photographed the scene from multiple angles and meticulously documented every piece of evidence. The forensic team also used luminol to detect any hidden blood traces, revealing a clearer picture of the struggle that had occurred. As they worked, the detectives tried to piece together what had happened. They speculated that Mike had been attacked in the living room and had tried to defend himself, moving towards the bedroom in a desperate attempt to escape. The severity of his injuries suggested that his attacker was driven by intense rage. Neighbors provided valuable information. Many of them reported hearing loud arguments and crashing noises coming from the Mirror house the previous night. Some had even seen a shadowy figure leaving the house around midnight. Detective Martinez made notes of these accounts, planning to follow up with more detailed interviews. The investigation was intense and painstaking. The detectives were determined to find out who had committed this brutal crime. They worked late into the night, reviewing the evidence and developing their theories. Every detail mattered, and they knew that solving this case required a careful and methodical approach. By the end of the day, Detective Martinez and Detective Carter had gathered significant evidence, but many questions remained. Who could have harbored such rage against Mike Muir? And why? These questions would drive their investigation as they sought to bring justice for Mike and his grieving family. Jackie Muir, Mike's 41-year-old wife, was the first person the police investigated. Jackie was well known in the community as a devoted wife and mother. She ran a small home-based business, selling handmade crafts on Etsy. People saw her as creative and dedicated. However, there were troubling signs beneath the surface. Friends and family had noticed that Jackie had become increasingly suspicious and paranoid about Mike's activities. She often believed Mike was cheating on her. This paranoia led to frequent and heated arguments. Neighbors reported hearing shouting matches late at night. Jackie's jealousy was intense. She would become hysterical as she even thought Mike had talked to another woman, throwing dishes and other objects in a fit of rage. Once, she even tried to whip Mike with her belt during a particularly fierce argument. The police brought Jackie in for questioning on the afternoon of July 12, 2018. Detective Laura Martinez and Detective James Carter conducted the interrogation. Jackie appeared distraught and nervous. Her eyes were red from crying, and she fidgeted constantly. She denied any involvement in Mike's death, but her emotional state made the detectives suspicious. During the interrogation, Jackie's story was inconsistent. She claimed she had gone to bed early the previous night and didn't hear anything unusual. However, neighbors had reported hearing loud arguments coming from the Muir house. When confronted with this information, Jackie became defensive and agitated. She raised her voice and accused the detectives of trying to frame her. The detectives pressed further, asking Jackie about her relationship with Mike. Jackie admitted they had been having problems. She confessed to feeling increasingly jealous and angry, but insisted she loved Mike and would never harm him. Her answers were punctuated with outbursts of tears and frustration, making it difficult for the detectives to determine the truth. Jackie's possible motive was clear: her growing obsession with the idea that Mike was having an affair. The intense jealousy and frequent arguments pointed to a troubled marriage. The detectives knew they needed more evidence to confirm their suspicions. They decided to hold Jackie for further questioning and to conduct a thorough search of the house. Back at the Muir residence, the police searched for any additional clues. They found Jackie's diary hidden in a drawer. The diary revealed her deep-seated paranoia and documented her fears and suspicions about Mike's fidelity. It also contained detailed accounts of their arguments and her feelings of betrayal and rage. This new evidence painted a clearer picture of Jackie's state of mind and her potential motive for the crime. The detectives now had a strong lead, but they needed to continue their investigation to uncover the full truth. David Miller, a 38-year-old ambitious businessman, was the next person the police investigated. David worked in real estate and was known for his drive and determination. He had a competitive yet friendly relationship with Mike Muir. They often crossed paths in the business world and sometimes socialized together. There were rumors about the nature of their relationship, which added another layer of complexity to the case. The police brought David in for questioning on July 13, 2018. Detective Laura Martins and Detective James Carter led the interrogation. David appeared calm and composed, but there was a nervous tension beneath the surface. He cooperated fully with the detectives, answering their questions without hesitation. David admitted that he and Mike had a close relationship, both professionally and personally. He revealed that he had developed strong feelings for Mike over time. David confessed that he had created a secret love shrine in his home, filled with photos and mementos of Mike. He spoke openly about his unrequited love, claiming it was a deep admiration that never crossed into anything harmful. During the interrogation, David's emotions were evident. He spoke passionately about his feelings for Mike, but firmly denied any involvement in the murder. He stated that he had been at home the night of the murder, working on a new real estate deal. His alibi was supported by emails and phone records, which showed he had been in communication with clients and colleagues during the time of the crime. The detectives explored David's potential motive. While his unrequited love for Mike could have driven him to extreme actions, there was no evidence linking him directly to the crime. David's calm and cooperative demeanor contrasted sharply with Jackie's defensive and agitated responses, making it harder for the detectives to pin him as the perpetrator. David's business dealings were also scrutinized. He and Mike had competed for the same projects, leading to occasional tensions. However, colleagues described their rivalry as friendly and professional. There were no signs of any major conflicts that could have escalated into violence. Despite his clear feelings for Mike and the strange nature of the love shrine, there was no concrete evidence to implicate David in the murder. The detectives concluded that while David's relationship with Mike was unusual, it did not provide a sufficient motive for murder. They decided to keep him on their radar but turned their focus to other potential leads. David's interview added another layer to the investigation, revealing the complex relationships in Mike's life. The detectives continued to piece together the puzzle, knowing they were still far from uncovering the full truth behind Mike Muir's tragic death. On July 15, 2018, just after noon, the police received a crucial piece of new evidence. It was a scorching summer day, with temperatures reaching record highs in Riverside, California. Detective Laura Martins and Detective James Carter were at the police station, reviewing the case files, when Officer Linda Hayes rushed in with an urgent report. A neighbor had found a set of torn clothing in her backyard. The clothes appeared to belong to a woman and were stained with what looked like blood. Detectives Martinez and Carter quickly went to the house to collect the evidence. The clothes included a torn blouse and a pair of jeans, both of which were covered in dirt and blood. The detectives carefully bagged the items and sent them to the forensic lab for analysis. They hoped the blood on the clothing would match Mike Muir's, providing a direct link to the murderer. Back at the station, the forensic team worked swiftly. They tested the blood samples and confirmed that they matched Mike's blood type. This finding strengthened the theory that the killer had discarded the clothes while fleeing the scene. The detectives also examined the clothes for any additional clues. They found a small label inside the blouse with the initials JM, which they believed stood for Jackie Muir. Detectives Martinez and Carter brought Jackie in for further questioning. When confronted with the new evidence, Jackie became visibly distressed. She denied that the clothes were hers and insisted she had no idea how they ended up in the neighbor's yard. Her nervous behavior and contradictory statements only heightened the detectives' suspicions. With this new evidence, the detectives felt they were getting closer to solving the case. But torn, blood-stained clothing provided a tangible link to Jackie, reinforcing their belief that she was involved in Mike's murder. They continued to gather information and build their case, determined to uncover the truth and bring justice to Mike Muir. Sarah Jane Brines, a 34-year-old teacher, was the third suspect the police investigated. Sarah Jane was energetic and friendly, well-liked by her colleagues and students at Riverside Elementary School. She had known the Muir family because she taught their son, Bender. Despite her cheerful demeanor, Sarah Jane had a secret that complicated the case. Detectives Laura Martins and James Carter brought Sarah Jane in for questioning on July 16, 2018. She appeared calm but nervous, twirling a strand of her hair as she sat down. When asked about her relationship with the Muirs, Sarah Jane revealed that she had been having an affair with Jackie Muir for over a year. Although the affair had ended a few months before Mike's murder, Sarah Jane admitted she still had lingering feelings for Jackie. Sarah Jane's possible motive stemmed from jealousy and unrequited love. She confessed that she felt hurt when Jackie ended their affair and suspected that Jackie might have been trying to rekindle her marriage with Mike. However, Sarah Jane insisted she had nothing to do with Mike's death. Her alibi for the night of the murder was that she was at home, grading papers, and watching The Great British Bake Off on Netflix, a popular watch for those with anxiety and other mental disorders. She provided the detectives with her laptop, which showed activity during the time of the murder supporting her alibi. The detectives found Sarah Jane's behavior during the interrogation to be mostly cooperative. She answered questions calmly but seemed genuinely sad when talking about her past relationship with Jackie. Detective Carter noticed a hint of bitterness when Sarah Jane spoke about Jackie's attempts to fix her marriage, but there were no signs of violent tendencies. To verify Sarah Jane's statements, the detectives interviewed her colleagues and neighbors. They all described Sarah Jane as kind and professional, with no history of aggressive behavior. Her alibi was further confirmed by a few neighbors who remembered seeing her car parked in her driveway all night on July 11. Despite her apparent innocence, the detectives couldn't ignore the complexity of her relationship with Jackie. They theorized that Sarah Jane might have been driven by jealousy or heartbreak, but there was no direct evidence linking her to the crime scene. With Sarah Jane's alibi holding up and no concrete evidence against her, the detectives decided to focus on other leads. They kept Sarah Jane on their radar but shifted their attention back to Jackie, who remained the primary suspect due to her inconsistent statements and the newly discovered evidence. Sarah Jane's interview added another layer of intrigue to the case, revealing the tangled relationships and emotions surrounding Mike Muir's tragic death. The detectives continued their investigation, determined to uncover the full truth. On July 18, 2018, the police made a breakthrough. They had gathered enough evidence to arrest Jackie Muir for the murder of her husband, Mike Muir. The combination of the bloody belt, the torn clothes with Jackie's initials, and her inconsistent statements pointed to her as the murderer. Detective Laura Martins and Detective James Carter arrived at the Muir residence early in the morning. They knocked on the door, and Jackie answered, looking tired and anxious. She seemed to sense what was coming. The detectives calmly informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Mike Muir. Jackie's face turned pale, and she began to cry, insisting that she was innocent. However, she did not resist arrest. As the detectives placed Jackie in handcuffs, neighbors gathered outside, watching in shock. Jackie's reaction to her arrest was one of disbelief and despair. She repeatedly asked, "Why the bleep would I kill him?" But the evidence against her was overwhelming. The police escorted Jackie to the station, where she was booked and held in custody. At the police station, during further questioning, the detectives confronted Jackie with the hypocrisy of her situation. They pointed out that she was obsessed with the idea that Mike was having an affair, while she had been having an affair herself with Sarah Jane Bryant. Jackie's reaction was explosive. She became violent, throwing things from her purse at the officers, and even taking off her belt and trying to whip them with. The situation escalated to the point where Jackie had to be physically restrained and was charged for attacking a police officer. After that, the detectives reviewed the case with their team. They had pieced together the events leading up to Mike's murder. Jackie's growing obsession with the idea that Mike was cheating on her had driven her into a fit of rage. On the night of July 11, 2018, an argument had escalated into violence. Jackie had grabbed her belt and whipped Mike repeatedly. The struggle had moved from the living room to the bedroom, where Mike ultimately succumbed to his injuries. Jackie's motive was rooted in her intense jealousy and paranoia. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Mike to another woman, even though there was no evidence that he was unfaithful. Her irrational fears and uncontrolled anger had led her to commit a heinous act. When the detectives informed Mike's family of Jackie's arrest, they were devastated but also relieved that the truth was coming to light. Mike's parents expressed their sorrow over losing their son and their shock at learning that Jackie was responsible. They struggled to reconcile the image of Jackie as a loving wife and mother with the violent actions that had ended Mike's life. The community was equally stunned. Friends and neighbors who had known Jackie for years were in disbelief. They had seen her as a devoted wife, not capable of such violence. The arrest sent ripples through Riverside, with local news stations covering the story extensively. The police had successfully identified and arrested the murderer, but the case was far from over. Jackie would now face trial, where the evidence against her would be laid out in full. The detectives knew they had done their job, but the tragedy of Mike Muir's death continued to weigh heavily on everyone involved. Jackie Muir's trial began on September 10, 2018. The courtroom was packed with family, friends, and curious members of the Riverside community. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Samuel Brooks, aimed to prove that Jackie's jealousy and rage led her to murder her husband, Mike Muir. District Attorney Brooks, a 45-year-old with a reputation for being tough and meticulous, presented the evidence against Jackie. He highlighted the bloody belt found at the crime scene, the torn clothes with Jackie's initials, and the violent confrontation Jackie had with the police. Brooks argued that Jackie's obsession with the idea of Mike having an affair, combined with her own secret relationship with Sarah Jane Brines, drove her to a deadly fit of rage. He detailed how the physical evidence and witness statements painted a clear picture of Jackie's guilt. Jackie's defense attorney, Maria Lopez, was a 38-year-old known for her compassionate yet fierce defense strategies. Lopez argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that Jackie's actions were not premeditated but a result of a momentary lapse in judgment. She tried to cast doubt on the prosecution's narrative by pointing out inconsistencies in the witness testimonies and suggesting alternative explanations for the physical evidence. Lopez emphasized Jackie's history as a loving mother and wife, arguing that the violent outburst was completely out of character. Throughout the trial, Mike Muir's family watched with heavy hearts. Richard and Susan Muir, along with other family members, found it difficult to sit through the details of Mike's death. Their emotional reactions were palpable, with tears often seen in their eyes as they listened to the testimony. The jury deliberated for 3 days. On September 20, 2018, they returned with a verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. Jackie showed little emotion, staring blankly ahead as she absorbed the news. Judge William Harris sentenced Jackie to 25 years to life in prison. He acknowledged the tragic circumstances but emphasized the need for justice and the severity of the crime. Jackie's sentencing brought some closure to Mike's family, though the pain of losing him remained. The community reacted with mixed feelings. Some believed the sentence was too harsh, given Jackie's prior good standing in the community. Others felt it was just, considering the brutality of the crime. Friends and neighbors of the Muir family expressed their continued support for Mike's family, attending the sentencing and offering their condolences. After Jackie Muir's trial, the lives of everyone involved changed significantly. Jackie was sent to the California Institution for Women to serve her sentence. She struggled to adjust to prison life, often reflecting on her actions and the impact they had on her family. Despite her circumstances, Jackie enrolled in counseling and educational programs, hoping to understand her behavior and seek some form of redemption. Mike Muir's family faced a difficult journey of healing. Richard and Susan Muir, Mike's parents, took on the responsibility of raising Bender, Mike, and Jackie's son. They worked hard to provide him with a stable home environment. Bender, who was only 10 at the time, struggled with the loss of his father and the imprisonment of his mother. His grandparents enrolled him in therapy to help him cope with the trauma. Sarah Jane Brines, the third suspect in the case, returned to her teaching job at Riverside Elementary School. Though cleared of any wrongdoing, the trial left a mark on her reputation. She focused on rebuilding her life and maintaining a low profile, dedicating herself to her students and avoiding the media spotlight. Her relationship with Jackie remained a topic of speculation, but Sarah Jane chose not to discuss it publicly. David Miller, the second suspect, continued his career in real estate. He maintained a professional demeanor but found it challenging to escape the shadow of the trial. The rumors about his relationship with Mike Muir persisted, but David chose to focus on his work, distancing himself from the past as much as possible. Life after the trial was a period of adjustment and reflection for everyone involved. The tragedy of Mike Muir's death left a lasting impact, but the resilience and support of the community helped those affected find a path forward. Albert Rizzy, a respected and hardworking man, was at the center of this shocking crime. At the age of 49, Albert held the esteemed position of bank manager at a local financial institution. Known for his unwavering dedication to his job, he had earned the admiration and respect of both his colleagues and friends. Albert's integrity and reliability had made him a pillar of the community. However, beneath the facade of professional success, Albert struggled with insecurities in his personal life. particularly within his marriage to Diana Rizzy. Their relationship had been on shaky ground for months, with rumors circulating among their close-knit circle of friends. These rumors of infidelity whispered through the town, leaving a trail of broken trust in their wake. Despite the outward appearance of a happy marriage, whispers of tension and discontent filled the air. As we delve deeper into the life of Albert Rizzy, we uncover a man haunted by the demons of his own making. Friends recall his frequent visits to local bars, seeking solace in the bottom of a glass. The strain of his failing marriage and mounting work pressure weighed heavily on his shoulders, leaving him vulnerable and exposed. The summer of 1982 was a tumultuous time in Carmel, Indiana. The town was abuzz with excitement over the upcoming Carmel Fest, an annual event that brought the community together in celebration. Amidst the cheerful atmosphere, a dark cloud loomed over the Rizzy household, casting a shadow on their once idyllic life. The murder of Albert Rizzy would send shockwaves through the town, leaving everyone questioning who could have committed such a heinous act. The quiet town of Carmel, Indiana, known for its picturesque neighborhoods and tight-knit community, would now be thrust into the spotlight. The residents, once feeling safe and secure, were now gripped by fear and uncertainty. Join us as we unravel the twisted web of secrets and lies that led to the tragic demise of Albert Rizzy. Stay tuned. We will delve deeper into the investigation and the shocking revelations that emerged. The tranquility of Carmel, Indiana's suburban neighborhood was shattered on the sunny morning of June 2, 1982, when a shocking and horrifying discovery was made. It was a day that would forever be etched in the memories of those who lived there. As the morning sun cast its warm glow over the neatly manicured lawns and picturesque houses, a neighbor, whose name we shall withhold for privacy reasons, went about their daily routine. Little did they know that this seemingly ordinary day would soon take a chilling turn. As they made their way towards Albert Rizzy's residence, a sense of unease began to creep in. Something felt amiss. Their heart raced, and a knot formed in their stomach. Upon reaching the front door, they hesitated for a moment, sensing an inexplicable foreboding. Summoning their courage, they entered the house, their footsteps echoing through the silent hallway. The air was heavy with an eerie stillness, broken only by the distant hum of a radio playing a popular tune from that summer. The neighbors' eyes darted around, searching for any signs of life. And then they saw it. In the dimly lit bedroom, bathed in the soft morning light filtering through the curtains, lay Albert Rizzy's lifeless body. The scene that unfolded before their eyes was straight out of a nightmare. The neighbors' heart pounded in their chest, their breath caught in their throat. Fear and panic washed over them like a tidal wave. They stumbled back, their minds struggling to comprehend the gruesome sight that lay before them. With trembling hands, they reached for their landline and dialed 911, their voice quivering as they informed the authorities of the horrifying discovery. Within minutes, the tranquil neighborhood was transformed into a hive of activity. Police cars, their sirens blaring, descended upon the scene. Yellow crime scene tape crisscrossed the area, marking it as a place of tragedy. Neighbors gathered in hushed clusters, their faces etched with shock and disbelief. The authorities swiftly responded to the distressing call from the quiet suburban neighborhood in Carmel, Indiana, on that sunny morning of June 2, 1982. Led by seasoned investigators, Detective Intrit and Officer Namazoff, the police meticulously examined the crime scene where Albert Rizzy, a respected bank manager, had met his untimely demise. Upon entering the bedroom, the investigators were confronted with a haunting sight. The once pristine walls were now marred with splatters of blood, a chilling testament to the violence that had unfolded. The room itself seemed frozen in time, its atmosphere heavy with the weight of tragedy. Detective Intrit carefully surveyed the area, his experienced eyes honing in on every detail. He noted the position of the body, sprawled lifelessly on the floor, and the discarded gun nearby. The weapon, a .38 caliber revolver, had a distinct serial number etched onto its barrel. The detective made a mental note to cross-reference it with the local firearms database. Officer Namazoff, armed with a camera, began meticulously documenting the scene. He captured close-up shots of the bloodstains on the walls, carefully noting their locations and patterns. Every angle was captured, ensuring that no crucial piece of evidence would be overlooked. The investigators knew the importance of thorough documentation in building a strong case. As the investigation progressed, the team discovered a few items of interest. A broken glass frame lay shattered on the floor, its remnants scattered around the room. Detective Intrit carefully collected the broken pieces, hoping to find fingerprints or other trace evidence. Nearby, a torn photograph caught Officer Namazop's attention. It depicted Albert and his wife Diana, smiling together at a local park. The torn edges suggested a possible struggle or argument. The investigators meticulously bagged and labeled each piece of evidence, ensuring a proper chain of custody. They knew that attention to detail was crucial, especially in a case that would undoubtedly attract media attention. The local newspapers, such as the Carmel Gazette, eagerly awaited updates on the investigation, and the police were determined to provide them with accurate information. The investigation had only just begun, and everyone knew that the road ahead would be filled with twists and turns. The investigation into the tragic murder of Albert Rizzy initially led to his wife, Diana Rizzy, as the prime suspect. Diana, a 43-year-old woman of elegance and sophistication, had long been dissatisfied with her marriage to Albert. Behind closed doors, she sought solace and excitement in the arms of her lover, Jason Mulholland. As police delved deeper into Diana's life, they discovered a web of deceit and betrayal. Her affair with Jason had been ongoing for months, unbeknownst to Albert. The clandestine meetings between Diana and Jason took place in various locations around Carmel, Indiana, adding an air of secrecy to their illicit relationship. During the course of the investigation, police uncovered a series of sexually explicit love letters exchanged between Diana and Jason. These letters, filled with graphic details of sex acts and promises of a future together, shed light on the depth of their affair. They also found evidence of expensive gifts exchanged between the two lovers, including a gold necklace from Tiffany & Company, a popular jewelry store in June of 1982. When confronted with the evidence, Diana initially denied any involvement in her husband's murder. However, under the relentless questioning of the police, she eventually broke down and confessed to her role in the affair. She admitted to hating Albert, driven by her desire to be free from the constraints of her marriage, but not to the murder. Diana's confession of hatred and forbidden love sent shockwaves through the community, as the once respected wife and mother was revealed to be a cold-blooded adulteress. The media frenzy surrounding the case intensified, with headlines in local newspapers such as "Love Gone Wrong," "The Carmel Murder Scandal," and "Betrayal and Bloodshed." The dark side of suburbia. Our second suspect in the murder of Albert Rizzy was Jason Mulholland, a 21-year-old student at Ball State University. Jason, a charismatic young man with a penchant for adventure, found himself entangled in a web of love, deceit, and greed. Born and raised in the confining and very Midwestern surroundings of Muncie, Indiana, Jason was no stranger to the allure of the big city. He yearned for a life beyond the confines of his small-town upbringing, dreaming of fast cars, designer clothes, and the glamorous lifestyle he believed he deserved. It was this desire for wealth and luxury that drew him to Diana Rizzy, Albert's wife. Diana, a sophisticated and elegant woman, seemed to embody everything Jason desired. Her refined taste and impeccable style captivated him, and he saw in her an opportunity to escape the ordinary. Their clandestine affair provided a thrilling escape from the monotony of Jason's college life, a taste of the high society he craved. But as the investigation unfolded, the police began to uncover a darker side to Jason's involvement. Financial gain appeared to be a motivating factor in the murder of Albert Rizzy. The authorities discovered a series of incriminating messages exchanged between Jason and Diana, discussing their plans to inherit Albert's substantial fortune. As the police subjected Jason to intense interrogation, his facade of innocence began to crumble. During the interrogation, Jason's demeanor shifted from confident to nervous. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead as he struggled to maintain his composure. His voice trembled as he attempted to explain his involvement, each word laced with desperation. "I never intended for things to go this far," Jason confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was blinded by my own desires, and I let greed consume me, but I never wanted anyone to get hurt." The investigators pressed further, seeking to uncover the full extent of Jason's role in the murder. As they delved deeper into his background, they discovered a troubling pattern of reckless behavior and a disregard for the consequences of his actions. With mounting evidence against him, Jason's fate hung in the balance. As the investigation continued, the truth behind Albert Rizzy's murder slowly came to light. The police meticulously pieced together the puzzle, connecting the dots that would ultimately lead to justice. In the investigation into the murder of Albert Rizzy, the Carmel Police Department uncovered a significant breakthrough. On the morning of June 15, 1982, at approximately 9:30 a.m., Officer Roger Kraftwerk was conducting a routine search of the wooded area near the crime scene when he stumbled upon a discarded shoebox hidden beneath a dense thicket of bushes. The shoebox, weathered and worn, contained a trove of valuable evidence that could potentially shed light on the identity of the perpetrator. Inside, investigators found a series of handwritten letters, photographs, and a small, blood-stained diary. The contents of these items, meticulously preserved within the box, have opened up new avenues of inquiry for the dedicated detectives working tirelessly to solve this baffling case. The letters, addressed to an individual known only as A.R., appear to be written by someone deeply familiar with Albert Rizzy's personal life. The author's words, filled with a chilling mix of love and resentment, hint at a long-standing grudge and a desire for revenge. The photographs, capturing candid moments from Albert's life, provide a haunting glimpse into the past. Among them, a picture of Albert and his wife Diana, smiling together on their wedding day, now takes on a more sinister meaning. The blood-stained diary, belonging to Albert himself, contained cryptic entries that speak of a growing paranoia and fear. The final entry, dated just days before his untimely demise, mentions an encounter with an unknown individual who threatened to expose a dark secret from Albert's past. Could this revelation be connected to his murder? The third suspect in the murder of Albert Rizzy was Carolina Coco Keeling, a 65-year-old neighbor residing in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Carmel, Indiana. Coco, known for her friendly demeanor and nosy nature, prided herself on being well-informed about the happenings in the community. However, behind her seemingly pleasant facade, Coco concealed a secret addiction to cocaine and a deep-seated jealousy towards the seemingly perfect marriage of Diana and Albert. As the police delved deeper into the investigation, suspicions arose regarding Coco's potential involvement in the heinous crime. Her close proximity to the Rizzy residence and her knowledge of the neighborhood's inner workings made her a person of interest. The police sought to uncover any hidden motives or connections between Coco and the victim. During the intense interrogation, Coco's demeanor shifted from friendly neighbor to a woman on edge. Her eyes darted nervously as she answered the investigators' questions. She claimed to have no knowledge of the events leading to Albert's murder, expressing shock and disbelief at the news of his untimely demise. However, the investigators were not easily swayed. They probed deeper, presenting Coco with evidence that contradicted her initial claims of innocence. They discovered that Coco had been seen in the vicinity of the Rizzy residence on the morning of June 2nd, the day Albert's lifeless body was discovered. Witnesses reported seeing Coco acting suspiciously, her usually friendly demeanor replaced with an air of unease. Furthermore, the police uncovered a series of phone calls between Coco and Diana in the days leading up to the murder. The content of these calls raised eyebrows, as they involved discussions about Albert's financial affairs and the possibility of a life insurance policy. The investigators suspected that Coco, driven by her addiction and jealousy, may have been entangled in a sinister plot to eliminate Albert for personal gain. As the interrogation intensified, Coco's initial denials began to crumble. She broke down, confessing to her involvement in the murder. Coco revealed that she had been manipulated by someone in the Rizzy family who promised her a share of the life insurance payout in exchange for her assistance. Overwhelmed by her addiction and fueled by envy, Coco succumbed to the cunning plan. The investigators, armed with this newfound information, were one step closer to unraveling the truth behind Albert Rizzy's murder. Their relentless pursuit of justice had led them down a twisted path where the veneer of suburban tranquility had been shattered by greed, addiction, and betrayal. In a shocking turn of events, the true identity of Albert Rizzy's murderer was uncovered by the diligent work of the police. It was none other than his own wife, Diana Rizzy, who emerged as the accused killer. The motive behind this heinous act was driven by a desire for freedom, passion, and financial security, all provided by Albert's life insurance policy. However, the truth took an even more sinister twist when it was revealed that Diana's own 16-year-old daughter, Sky Rizzy, was labeled as the actual mastermind behind the murder. Motivated by deep-seated feelings of neglect and resentment, Sky orchestrated her father's demise by psychologically manipulating her mother and her mother's lover, Jason Mulholland, a 21-year-old student at Ball State. Throughout the investigation, the police meticulously collected evidence, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice. They discovered a trail of incriminating phone calls exchanged between Sky, Diana, and Jason, detailing their sinister intentions. Additionally, surveillance footage from a nearby convenience store captured the pair purchasing the murder weapon, a gun, just days before the crime took place. The police investigation uncovered a web of deceit and betrayal that had been carefully woven by this trio. Diana's and Jason's arrest left the community in a state of disbelief, as they struggled to comprehend how a seemingly devoted wife and mother could be capable of such a heinous act. The shockwaves reverberated through the quiet suburban neighborhood of Carmel, Indiana, where the Rizzy family had once resided. In the aftermath of this shocking revelation, the community of Carmel, Indiana, was left to heal and rebuild. The wounds inflicted by this tragic event would take time to mend, as the echoes of this true crime case would forever resonate within the hearts and minds of those who were touched by it. In the summer of 1982, the small town of Carmel, Indiana became the epicenter of a gripping murder trial that captivated the state of Indiana. The courtroom, adorned with its polished oak panels and imposing judge's bench, was transformed into a stage where justice would ultimately prevail. The prosecution, led by the tenacious district attorney, Eric Swift, presented a compelling case against Diana Rizzy, the accused murderer. With meticulous attention to detail, Eric Swift meticulously pieced together the evidence, revealing the depth of Diana's betrayal. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as he painted a vivid picture of her motive, a desire for freedom, passion, and financial security provided by her husband Albert's life insurance policy. The defense, represented by the seasoned attorney Elizabeth Holmes Narwhal, fought tooth and nail to establish doubt in the minds of the jury. Holmes Narwhal skillfully questioned the credibility of the prosecution's witnesses, highlighting inconsistencies in their testimonies. She argued that the evidence was circumstantial at best, and that Diana was being unfairly scapegoated for a crime she did not commit. As the trial progressed, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Witnesses took the stand, recounting their interactions with Diana, Sky, and Jason. The jury listened intently, their eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. The media, hungry for sensational stories, filled the courtroom benches, their pens scribbling furiously as they captured every twist and turn. After days of riveting testimony, the jury retired to deliberate. The nation held its breath as they weighed the evidence and deliberated on Diana's fate. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the jury returned with their verdict. Diana Rizzy was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in gasps and whispers as the reality of the verdict sank in. Diana's face remained stoic, betraying no emotion. The judge, his voice filled with authority, pronounced the sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. As the media frenzy subsided and the town slowly returned to its normal rhythm, Riverton was left to pick up the pieces. The impact of the trial reverberated through the community, forever altering the lives of those involved. Following the conclusion of the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved were forever changed. Carolina Coco Keeling, the nosy neighbor who had harbored deep-seated jealousy towards the Rizzy family, found herself ostracized by the community. The revelation of her secret addiction to cocaine only intensified the disdain towards her. The local newspaper, the Indianapolis Gazette, ran a scathing expose on Coco's double life, further tarnishing her already damaged reputation. She retreated from public view, seeking solace in the anonymity of her small apartment. Sky Rizzy, the 15-year-old daughter of the victim and the accused mastermind, faced a long and arduous road to redemption. Plagued by feelings of neglect and resentment, her involvement in her father's murder shocked the community to its core. The media frenzy surrounding the trial painted Skye as a troubled and misguided teenager. The local television station, Wish TV, aired a special report on the impact of the trial on Skye's life, delving into her troubled life and the psychological factors that led to her involvement in the crime. There were even rumors she would be played by Drew Barrymore in a made-for-TV movie. Skye was placed in a juvenile detention center where she underwent intensive therapy and counseling in an attempt to rehabilitate her. Jason Mulholland, the young lover of Diana Rizzy, faced a bleak future. His dreams of a luxurious lifestyle were shattered as he found himself behind bars. The local radio station, WFBQ-FM, covered Jason's sentencing, highlighting the role he played in the heinous crime. With his youthful charm now overshadowed by his criminal actions, Jason struggled to come to terms with the consequences of his choices. The loss of Albert Rizzy, a beloved member of the community, left a void that could never be filled. The local church, St. John's Episcopal Church, held a memorial service to honor Albert's memory, providing solace to his grieving family and friends. The community rallied around the Rizzy family, offering support and condolences during their time of need. As the months passed, the small town of Carmel, Indiana returned to its usual rhythm, but the scars of the tragedy remained. The impact of the events that unfolded in June of 1982 continued to reverberate through the lives of those involved, forever altering their paths. And so, the story of Albert Rizzy's murder comes to an end. In the quiet suburban neighborhood of Carmel, Indiana, the dark underbelly of seemingly idyllic lives was exposed. Love, betrayal, and a shocking twist left an indelible mark on all those involved. In the heart of Oklahoma City, Joanna Rangel, 56, lived the life that seemed like it came straight out of a movie. As the heir to a vast oil and gas fortune, Joanna was a well-known figure in the city's high society. With a history of attending prestigious schools, she was not only wealthy but also well-educated and respected. Joanna was married to Frank H. Rangel, a powerful state senator, making them one of the most influential couples in Oklahoma. They had children who looked up to their mother as a role model. Joanna's personality was as bright as the Oklahoma sun. She was known for her kindness, her love for her family, and her passion for the ranch life that was part of her family's heritage. Apart from managing her family's estate, she was deeply involved in charity work, always looking to give back to her community. In the days leading up to her untimely death in January 2000, Joanna was full of dreams and plans. With the new millennium, the world buzzed with excitement and people everywhere were talking about the Y2K bug scare that turned out to be a false alarm. Amidst this, Joanna was planning to rejuvenate her appearance with a facelift. She hoped this would help her step confidently into the new decade, continuing her public and private duties with renewed vigor. Little did anyone know, this decision would lead to a tragic turn of events that would shock the community and leave a lasting impact on her family and friends. On the morning of January 15, 2000, Oklahoma City was draped in a blanket of gray clouds, setting a somber mood across the town. It was on this chilly winter day that the unexpected tragedy of Joanna Rangel unfolded within the sterile walls of a renowned private clinic, a place where the elite of Oklahoma City often turned to in pursuit of perfection. Joanna, a prominent figure in the city's social circles, had scheduled a facelift surgery, aiming to start the new millennium with renewed confidence. However, what was supposed to be a routine procedure turned fatal. Joanna's life came to an abrupt end on the operating table, leaving behind a wave of disbelief and sorrow. The grim discovery was made by the surgical team itself, led by Dr. Jonathan Humberston, the clinic's top surgeon. The atmosphere in the operating room shifted from professional calm to chaotic distress as the team realized Joanna could not be revived. Among them was Angie Ruth Niles, a young nurse who found herself in a situation no medical professional ever hopes to face. Despite their extensive training, nothing could have prepared them for the shock and immediate grief of losing a patient in such circumstances. Word of Joanna's death quickly spread beyond the clinic's walls, casting a shadow over the city. The community, still buzzing from the recent New Year's celebrations and the global sigh of relief that the Y2K bug had been a non-event, was now mourning the loss of one of its most beloved figures. Joanna's death, occurring in a place where she sought to enhance her beauty, added a tragic irony to her passing and left the city in search of answers. Shortly after the tragic news of Joanna Rangel's death during surgery broke out on that overcast January morning in 2000, Oklahoma City police swiftly arrived at the private clinic. The clinic, known for its exclusive clientele and top-notch services, had suddenly become the center of a grim investigation. Leading the investigation were Detective Mickey Larson and his partner, Detective Sarah Gumbert. Both were experienced officers, but the nature of this case was unlike any they had encountered before. The crime scene was not what they typically faced. There were no signs of a struggle or violence. Instead, they stepped into a high-tech operating room, where the only evidence of something gone wrong was the medical equipment and the lifeless body of Joanna Rangel. Detective Larson, known for his methodical approach, immediately began documenting the scene, taking notes on everything from the arrangement of surgical tools to the settings on the medical monitors. Detective Gumbert, on the other hand, focused on interviewing the shocked staff, trying to piece together the timeline of events. Their objective was clear: to understand how a routine cosmetic surgery could turn fatal. The police collected various items for analysis, including syringes, vials of medication, and the records of the anesthesia machine. Every piece of evidence was handled with care, knowing that any could hold the key to unraveling the mystery of Joanna's death. As news vans from local stations like K4 and KWEV crowded the clinic's parking lot, the police continued their meticulous work inside. The investigation into Joanna Rangel's death promised to be a high-profile case, with every detail scrutinized by both the authorities and the public. In the wake of Joanna Rangel's unexpected death, the focus of the Oklahoma City police investigation quickly turned to Dr. Jonathan Humberston, age 48. As the surgeon who performed Joanna's facelift, Dr. Humberston was at the center of the tragic event. Known as Oklahoma City's premier plastic surgeon, he was a familiar face in the same high society circles as Joanna. However, rumors had been swirling about his struggles with alcohol, casting a shadow over his professional reputation. Dr. Humberston's background was impressive. He had attended some of the most prestigious medical schools in the country and had built a successful practice in Oklahoma City. His dreams were as big as his achievements. He aspired to be recognized as one of the best plastic surgeons nationwide. But beneath the surface of his professional success, there were whispers about the pressure he faced and how it might have led him to seek solace in alcohol. When detectives Larson and Gumbert sat down with Dr. Humberston for questioning, they encountered a man who was both defensive and visibly stressed. He insisted that Joanna's surgery was routine and that he had performed similar procedures countless times without issue. Yet, his demeanor fluctuated wildly during the interrogation, swinging from anger to moments of profound silence, as if he was grappling with the weight of the situation. The police were keen to understand every detail of the surgery, from the preparation to the moment things took a tragic turn. They questioned Dr. Humberston about his actions and decisions in the operating room, looking for any signs of negligence or malpractice. The interrogation was thorough, leaving no stone unturned, as the detectives aimed to piece together how a procedure meant to bring joy ended in sorrow. As the investigation continued, the story of Joanna Rangel's death began to capture the attention of the entire city. Local newspapers and TV stations were filled with updates and speculations about the case. This tragedy had struck a chord, reminding everyone of the fragility of life. As the investigation into Joanna Rangel's death unfolded, the spotlight shifted to Frank H. Rangel, Joanna's husband, who was 59 years old. Frank was a state senator, well-known and respected in government circles. His marriage to Joanna had united two powerful families, making them a prominent couple in Oklahoma City. Despite his influential position, rumors of financial difficulties and a secret affair began to surface, adding complexity to the case. Frank Rangel was a man of ambition, dreaming of leaving a lasting legacy in Oklahoma politics. However, his personal life was not as straightforward as his public persona suggested. The police were curious about any motives Frank might have had, considering the whispers about his extramarital relationship and potential financial gains from Joanna's untimely death. When detectives Larson and Gumbert interviewed Frank, they encountered a man who projected calm and grief over the loss of his wife. He spoke of Joanna with respect and affection, denying any involvement in her death. Frank's demeanor during the interrogation was composed, even as the detectives probed into sensitive areas of his personal and financial life. He insisted that his marriage, despite any rumors, was strong and that he had no reason to wish harm upon Joanna. The detectives were meticulous in their questioning, aware that the dynamics of the Rangel family could hold clues to the mystery. They examined Frank's alibi, financial records, and his interactions with Joanna leading up to the surgery. The investigation was thorough, leaving no aspect of Frank's life unexplored. The case garnered media attention, and the intrigue of a high-profile investigation, combined with the drama of personal and political scandals, captivated the city. In a time when the world was celebrating the start of a new millennium, the tragic death of Joanna Rangel added a somber note to the year's beginning. On a brisk January afternoon, a week after the tragic death of Joanna Rangel, Oklahoma City police made a significant breakthrough in the case. New evidence emerged that would pivot the direction of their investigation. During a meticulous review of the clinic's security footage, detectives spotted something alarming. Angie Ruth Niles, a young nurse who was part of the surgical team, was captured on camera tampering with medical supplies the night before Joanna's procedure. The weather outside mirrored the chill of the revelation as a cold front had swept through Oklahoma City, leaving streets slick with ice. Inside the warm confines of the police station, Detectives Larson and Gumbert watched the footage repeatedly, their seasoned eyes catching the subtle but deliberate actions of Angie. This discovery raised a multitude of questions about her involvement and motives. Armed with this new evidence, the detectives wasted no time. They revisited the clinic, this time focusing on gathering any physical proof that could link the tampered supplies to Joanna's surgery. They collected vials, syringes, and any medications that could have been compromised, ensuring each item was meticulously cataloged for forensic analysis. The police's response to this breakthrough was swift. They knew that this piece of evidence could be the key to unraveling the mystery of Joanna's death. The community, still reeling from the shock of losing one of its most beloved figures, followed the developments closely. Local news outlets were quick to report on the police's findings, adding another layer of intrigue to the high-profile case. In a city that had just celebrated the dawn of the new millennium with optimism and joy, the turn of events in Joanna Rangel's case served as a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life. As the investigation continued, the police were determined to piece together the puzzle, driven by the evidence that had unexpectedly come to light. With the investigation taking a dramatic turn, the focus shifted to Angie Ruth Niles, a 23-year-old nurse at the clinic and a new, critical suspect in Joanna Rangel's death. Angie, who had been captured on the clinic's security footage tampering with medical supplies, suddenly found herself at the center of the police's attention. Known as Frank Rangel's mistress and a key figure in the clinic, Angie's involvement painted a complex picture of personal and professional entanglements. Angie had dreams of moving up in the world, seeing her relationship with Frank as a ticket out of her current life. Her aspirations, however, were now overshadowed by the serious allegations against her. When detectives Larson and Gumbert brought Angie in for questioning, they encountered a young woman whose demeanor oscillated between nervousness and defiance. Her initial calmness gave way to moments of anger as the interrogation intensified, revealing the pressure she was under. The detectives probed Angie about her actions on the night before the surgery, her relationship with Frank, and her presence during the fatal procedure. They were keen to understand her motives, questioning whether jealousy, ambition, or coercion played a role in her actions. Angie's responses were evasive at first, but as the evidence mounted, the facade began to crack, suggesting that there was more to her involvement than initially appeared. As the news of Angie's interrogation spread, the community was abuzz with speculation. Local media, including stations like KWTV and the Oklahoma Gazette, closely followed the developments, providing updates that kept the city on edge. In a time when Oklahoma City was still basking in the optimism of the new millennium, the case of Joanna Rangel introduced a narrative filled with intrigue and betrayal, capturing the attention of a community grappling with the unfolding drama. The investigation into Angie Ruth Niles added a new layer of complexity to the case, as detectives worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading to Joanna's tragic death. With each new revelation, the city watched, waiting for justice to be served in a case that had touched the hearts of many. As the investigation into Joanna Rangel's tragic death deepened, all clues began pointing towards Angie Ruth Niles, the 23-year-old nurse and the mistress of Frank Rangel. The evidence, particularly the security footage of Angie tampering with the medical supplies, was damning. It became clear that Angie, driven by a mix of personal ambition and influence from Frank, played a pivotal role in the events leading to Joanna's death. Angie's dreams of a future with Frank, away from the shadows of his marriage to Joanna, had morphed into a sinister plot. Under the guise of a routine facelift procedure, Angie manipulated the medical supplies, leading to fatal complications during Joanna's surgery. The police, after gathering all necessary evidence and corroborating the sequence of events, moved to make the arrest. On a cold morning in late January, just as the city was beginning to move past the Y2K frenzy and the excitement of the new millennium, Oklahoma City police arrived at Angie's residence. The arrest was swift, capturing Angie by surprise. She had been planning to flee the country with Frank, with tickets booked for a flight to Colombia. However, the police intercepted before their connecting flight to DFW Airport, preventing their escape. Angie's reaction to her arrest was a mix of disbelief and resignation. She had underestimated the extent of the investigation and the evidence against her. Frank, on the other hand, remained silent, his political career and personal life in ruins. The news of the arrest sent shockwaves through Oklahoma City. Local media, including the Oklahoman and News 9, were quick to cover the story, with reporters stationed outside the courthouse and the police station, capturing every moment of the unfolding drama. The community, still reeling from the loss of Joanna, found some solace in the swift action of the police. Joanna's family, devastated by her loss, expressed a cautious relief at the arrests, hopeful for justice in the wake of their unimaginable grief. The trial of Angie Ruth Niles, the nurse implicated in the tragic death of Joanna Rangel, became a focal point for Oklahoma City. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the city watched with bated breath, eager for justice in a case that had gripped the community's heart. The prosecution, led by the determined Amy and Clark, a seasoned attorney known for her tough stance on crime, presented a compelling case against Angie. They outlined how her actions, influenced by her relationship with Frank Rangel, directly led to Joanna's untimely death. On the defense side, John J. Mercian, a skilled lawyer with a reputation for handling high-profile cases, argued for leniency. He painted Angie as a young woman caught in a web of manipulation, her judgment clouded by love and ambition. Despite his efforts, the evidence against Angie was overwhelming, leaving little room for doubt about her involvement. The trial was the talk of the town, with daily updates dominating the news. Stations like Coco 5 and the Oklahoman provided extensive coverage, capturing the emotional testimonies in the tense atmosphere in the courtroom. Joanna's family, present throughout the proceedings, displayed a mix of sorrow and hope, clinging to the belief that justice would be served. When the verdict was finally announced, Angie was found guilty, a decision that sent a wave of relief through the courtroom and beyond. She was sentenced to life in prison, a punishment that Joanna's family felt was just, yet they knew no sentence could fill the void left by Joanna's death. The community, while satisfied with the outcome, reflected on the tragedy, pondering the fragile nature of life and the consequences of our choices. The verdict and sentencing closed the chapter on a case that had captivated Oklahoma City, leaving a lasting impact on all involved. As the news of the sentencing spread, discussions about the case continued, with many hoping it would serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of envy and deceit. In the months following the trial and sentencing of Angie Ruth Niles for the tragic death of Joanna Rangel, Oklahoma City began to heal. The high-profile case that had once dominated conversations at every corner of the city slowly receded into the background, leaving behind a community forever changed by the events. Detectives Mickey Larson and Sarah Gumbert, the officers who had tirelessly worked to bring justice to Joanna, continued their service with the Oklahoma City Police Department. The case had left an indelible mark on their careers, reinforcing their commitment to upholding the law and serving their community. They often found themselves reflecting on the complexities of human nature they had witnessed during the investigation. For Joanna's family, life without her was a difficult adjustment. They channeled their grief into continuing her legacy, dedicating themselves to the charitable causes she had been passionate about. The ranch, a place Joanna loved dearly, became a sanctuary for the family, a place where they could feel close to her spirit and keep her memory alive. Angie Ruth Niles, now serving a life sentence, faced the consequences of her actions. The reality of her situation set in as she adjusted to life behind bars, a stark contrast to the future she had once envisioned with Frank Rangel. Frank, whose involvement in the case had shattered his career and personal life, struggled to come to terms with the fallout. His dreams of political legacy and influence were irreparably damaged. The community of Oklahoma City, while moving forward, would not forget the tragedy that had unfolded among them. Local media outlets, including the Oklahoman and K4TV, occasionally revisited the case, reminding residents of the importance of justice and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. As life continued in the aftermath of the trial, those touched by the case found ways to move on, each carrying their own lessons and memories of a case that had captivated a city and tested the bonds of its community. The tragic case of Joanna Rangel serves as a somber reminder of the lengths to which individuals will go to reshape their destinies, often with devastating consequences.